realistically, right? If you have a Primarch, a hero of the Imperium, especially upon their return, there's gonna be merch. That's a funny thing to think about. Because think about all, like, any, like, famous figure in our world, the amount of weird fucking merch they get on, okay? Now imagine a Primarch and the amount of fucking weird, the funniest fucking shit. Because, you know, obviously, I'm mainly thinking of, like, you've seen, like, the big Trump stores?
Yeah,
like, Trump superstores? They got a whole bunch of crazy-ass shit for Trump.
Yeah,
like, you got fucking Trump pulling his pants down and you fucking squeeze it, like, a little, basically, like, brown bubble comes out of the end, that type of shit. I'm just saying, realistically, we could be looking at the same type of merch for fucking Guilliman.
Oh my god.
Think about that.
I guess.
The greatest little derivative pile of blueberry pudding pop fuckery to have ever glazed the surface of this shitty little galaxy. Shout out to Emperor TTS.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
We've got...
Rest in peace, what?
Are you serious? Damn IT really well
Yeah, if the Emperor had TTS, yeah. Because they don't produce anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. You didn't know
Yeah,
that?
because
No,
GW is a piece of shit.
Well, I hate to be the guy. I hate to be the guy, but somebody did point
You're
someone
going to
out.
be defending GW.
I am going to defend GW. Briefly, I'm going to justify something, okay? Now, I'm not... the first part is speculation that I've heard, so grain of salt on that. But according to what I've heard online, you do need to go and update basically copyright law to basically help keep it within copyright, okay? But also, the main thing they basically updated was saying, hey, we have the right to remove anything that makes RIP, okay? Now, the problem is that they did this at the same time they did Warhammer Plus, and they were thinking, oh, they're going to strike down all the fan animation, stuff like that. So that way, everybody goes to Warhammer Plus, because that's the only source of stuff. But the big deal is they never did that. And do you know how many channels that made fan animation or anything else that they actually went and struck down? Or legally threatened, or had YouTube remove, or pull, or anything else?
I can fucking imagine.
No, get a number, guess. At
Zero.
least documented.
Zero.
Really?
Not a single person has been removed. Yeah, like that. No cap. Now, granted, if it's if
They've been
purging
STL mines more than anything.
Oh yeah, they hit STLs because
dude,
that's
they
a
fucking-
direct threat. Yeah.
They brought a lawsuit against E-Man G. Have you seen that shit?
Nah, the model stuff they'll legally jump your ass 100% every single fucking time, like right behind the bar. But
Oh yeah.
when it comes to the fan animation, it seems like that's green space. Now, one of the funniest things that's always been like, if you grab the STLs, the funniest fucking shit is seeing like what nondescript name everything's classified under. If you go onto like Thingiverse, Colts, anything else.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, it's not Deathcore Krieg. It's it's like Happy Trenchman with shovel, fucking number 5 through 10. But the favorite thing I did is because they don't, at least they didn't. And this is one of the at least personal theories I have on why they reintroduced Epic. One of the main ways that I found on like Thingiverse, yada yada, that they would get around this with is because GW at the time didn't produce anything in the Epic scale. So what they would do is they would quote unquote make an Epic scale model. And it was like, hey, this is if you want to play Epic 40K as a home rule. It's not an actual model. You can't fill that in 40K game.
And
There's
it's not
nothing
even
else there.
really a fucking 40K.
However,
But
if you
when you
scale it up,
Yeah, but when you scale it up, I'm not saying they meant anything by this, but that detail is suspiciously high res when you scale it up 200%. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so okay, this is kind of a funny thing. Something else I've looked up is apparently obviously a lot of stuff.
Are you on Reddit?
Temporarily.
Oh, you are on Reddit.
So don't you fucking dare.
Wow.
Okay. Listen, I am, but only like a thing. It's like Walmart. You get in, you get out, you don't stay. Anyways.
He's
throw that out,
probably
yeah.
on the Sig Marxism page too.
Just go fuck yourself. That's almost as bad as being on Reddit. Fuck you. At least you can laugh at Sig Marxism. Unironically, if we want to talk about Taurus and a bunch of
That's fine, I'm
fucking
gonna post
cunty
this in the
ass
comments,
bitch ass fuck only shit Sig Marxism. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the first edit of the episode.
I'm editing. I don't care. I'll keep that in. Fucking watch me. No, I'm not. Okay, but see, this is where GW gets fucking tricky, and where I partially hate them, partially love them. Because yeah, it's like Astra Militarum, it's Adeptus Astartes, but they actually have an in-lore reason for this shit, which is funny as fuck, and I love it to death because it actually builds the world. Yeah, because you got High Gothic, you have Low Gothic.
Right.
Yeah, so Low Gothic, it literally in canon, they'll talk and say like, oh, Low Gothic is Space Marines, High Gothic, it's Adeptus Astartes, right? And of course, any like official stuff is all in High Gothic, therefore it's, oh, the Adeptus Astartes. But then if some layman comes around, it's like, oh, Space Marines.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or the Imperial Army.
Yeah.
Kind of shit.
Oh, watching all the stuff go on through the Siege of Terra.
Oh, it's so beautiful, man. It's so beautiful.
I'm not there yet.
Dude, it's so... I love
I have
Siege
to,
Terra.
I have to get through. Fuck, what book am I on right now?
Is Lucius at the
Battle for
Siege of
Calth.
Terra?
Lucius?
I don't remember him ever being mentioned. But also that's partially due to the Emperor's Children being the Emperor's Children. Because because you guys don't care about spoilers or anything else like that. It's not a huge spoiler, but literally what happens is, for the vast majority of Siege of Terra, the Emperor's Children realized, hey, we have Imperial Palace, which is basically like Middle Eastern, more Asian, like Nepal area, right? But it's like almost like half the continent, right? So very big landmass, but that leaves like the other like 66% of the world, where there are still hive cities and everybody else living everything else. The Emperors are like, oh, undefeated targets, slaves, slaves, slaves.
Slave, butt fuck, slave, butt fuck.
Unironically, yes. And then finally, it's Saturnine is whenever the Emperor's Children actually is like, oh, okay, I guess we gotta do some work now. And then they do their one thing, then they fuck off again.
Yeah, I
So-
was about to say, I've noticed that the Emperor's Children and like Fulgrim's been there. Like, I don't like how he voices Fulgrim.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
To me, he voices Fulgrim too much like Angron, where he's all Fulgrim.
Yeah.
Jonathan Keeble
Yeah, true.
does certain Primarchs pretty well, but it's the same thing with like Gareth Armstrong. Like if he's voicing not the Lion, but if he's voicing like Dorn or anyone like that, like his voice is pretty good for Dorn, but then he tries to do like Horus, and
I
it's
don't
like,
know
no,
because
no,
I don't know because
stop.
Gerber said something while I was listening to my book at work, and I can't unsee it about Dorn now.
Oh shit.
Oh,
The
you
way-
gotta share it.
The way Jonathan Keeble voices him, he sounds like the walrus. He sounds like the walrus from Alice in Wonderland.
The Walrus.
Yeah, remember the time has come.
I hear Walrus, I just think of the movie Tusk. I love that movie.
Yeah, is that a Pixar movie?
Oh, have you never seen Tusk?
Have you never
and I have kids and I've never seen that movie.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yes, it's absolutely
I mean,
a kid movie. You should
I don't
watch
fucking
it.
know. It sounds
It's
like
got
some
Johnny
kind of Disney
Depp.
Pixar bullshit.
It's got Johnny Depp.
Oh, okay. Well, I retract my statement then. Mean,
Yes.
I haven't
Don't
seen the
look
movie,
it up.
but
Just
it's-
watch it. Have a family movie night. Just watch it and just go from there.
You are now listening to Heresy FM. This ain't your commissar station.
I guess we have to get on with today's
Yeah.
episode. Welcome to the podcast,
Yay.
everyone. I am Corn Berserker. I'm here with the ever-loving Emperor's Executioner, Groot, Scoot, and Boogie. And oh, Jesus Christ, what the hell is that?
Oh yeah, Tusk. Yeah.
Is that Kevin Smith? That looks like Kevin Smith.
No, Kevin Smith directs it.
Yeah, that looks like Kevin Smith. That guy's an idiot.
You'll need to see it one day. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
Anyways.
let's see it. But yep, it's
We're
Corn
talking-
and Groot, Scoot, Boogie, and our lore master in chief, Step Brew, and he's fucking grinning from ear to ear today because we are talking
Yes.
about one of the most Mary Sue fucking legions, the poster boys of GW.
Oh,
I love
The
how
one
he
and
told
only
the Discord
13th.
that we were gonna do this so unbiased and how
I
much.
will be unbiased, or at the
I
very
am-
least, this will balance out.
I am still convinced that Step Bro doesn't know what the word unbiased means.
Unbiased means whatever opinion I hold. Thank you.
That's like
Yeah.
like the speed that I drive at is the correct speed and everyone else is wrong.
See, I said that. The cop still gave me a ticket.
I love how he's standing
You're
in the
just
middle
wrong.
of the scale while we're definitely standing on one side of the scale.
Well, I'm going to get enthusiastic, and I'm going to do my best to shoot down the negativity, because I think there's a lot of hate to be given, but it's for Ultramarines, but it's not specific. It's not specifically directed. I guarantee you, your hatred is not directed towards the Ultramarines or Guilliman. It's directed towards Matt Ward. I guarantee it.
It's directed towards GW for their writing. That
It is
not
directed
GW,
towards
but the Black Library.
Cato Sicarius.
Yeah.
Black Library with Ultramarines is not the issue, though. It's the codexes and the books and all.
Listen-
not the actual like fiction books, but the actual like codex lore.
I will give it to you that Matt Ward is a problem, and this is coming from someone who is a Grey Knights fan. Matt Ward did a lot of the Grey Knights fucking lore, and he made them super OP. Not only that, but also in the game as well. So, however,
We're going to confuse everybody on our stances because one of my favorite pieces of writing that I will 100% stand by is the fucking Mad Ward Grey Knight story. I actually love
which
that.
one where he cracked the
Yes,
freaking...
yes, I actually love that. Unironically, I think that's great. If you guys are willing, I want to break this episode down into 3 sections. Okay, we got the first 2, which are lore. We got 30K, we got 40K, and the last section I want to go over basically an entire discussion about Ultramarines, right? Sort of like what we're having right now. Okay.
Oh,
Just to
we
kinda-
need to add another section into that. That's probably going to be longer than this entire podcast.
Oh, really?
The Successor chapters. Groot.
Should I just like link the wiki page at the bottom and we call it a day?
You know what you do?
No, because you have to put the pictures up.
You guys are buying me the Rebel to get through
you
that.
put
shit.
no. What you do is you so like at the end credits of every movie, you just put all that, but he's scrolling like 2 times speed.
I'm doing that. I'm fucking doing
It's just
that
a
now.
2 times speed of every Successor chapter.
We'll
of the
do that.
Ultramarines.
We'll do that at the end.
At the end, we will have a scrolling credits with all the successors. I agree. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, look, you can even have me read them off, and you can like speed up my voice so that it sounds all chipmunky.
Yeah. We'll
That'd
go
be
through
perfect. That'd be perfect.
it. Yeah. Anyways,
Yes, we are talking about the Ultramarines today.
so
Courage and honor, courage and honor.
Theoreticals and practicals.
Theoretical,
and
practical.
practicals.
We
Yes.
march from a crag.
the ultimate pragmatist for the most part, in the universe of Warhammer, the Ultramarines, overplayed.
Overrated.
I'm not. Overplayed, overused, 100%. I will not.
Overworked, underpaid.
That's me, not the Ultramarines. Anyways, we're going off from that.
Yes.
So let's start with Guilliman. So once again, to start off very simply, copy paste. Okay, he was nutted into a jar with a My Little Pony action figure, let by a heating vent, and then eventually somebody came and stole him and yeeted him across the stars. Okay, do you guys know about the jar?
Jar.
We'll talk later. Anyways, we'll go.
Okay.
We'll go around.
Wait, what?
You guys don't know about the MLP jar? Oh God. Oh.
What?
Yeah, fuck. Oh, let's get this out of the way. Okay, so there's something.
Oh God!
What?
Why is it brown?
Oh my God!
Because it's left near a vent for like a
Oh
year.
God!
That looks like someone.
I can't believe you guys haven't heard this.
Oh God!
We
This is a
have
great
kids
episode.
that
I
are
don't go on Reddit.
Like, it's not a Reddit thing. It started on 4chan. Anyways, Guilliman, you're all probably traumatized. So,
Where was this going?
I don't know. I made a joke. I was just making a joke about the classic
What does this
sperm.
have to do with Rafute Guilliman?
We haven't gotten
The
to the gene
tangent.
seed section of the fucking
So, guys, how many
podcast
Primarch
yet.
loads do you think it would take to fill up a jar?
The Guilliman could calculate that.
We
pretty
still
quick.
haven't. Yeah, he would.
Yeah.
We still haven't figured out how fast the Primarch would jizz. So
We-
we need to get that first before to see
I
how.
feel like that's. Anyways, we're back to topic. Oh God, if we didn't have a cold open, we got one now. But going on for that. So, long story short, Guilliman obviously was a Primarch, and his story began. And then he was in a pod. The pod got jettisoned, and his cum jar landed on the crag. Okay, he was the pony action figure. He crawls out of there, and unlike Angron, as we previously discussed last episode, he had an actually good upbringing. To summarize this decently briefly, he had a dad. He did not have a mom, but he did have an effective mom. He actually went on ahead and had a very good upbringing because he was brought up by his dad, and he was basically learned with the McCragan High Riders. He got involved with the Senate, and his dad was eventually assassinated Julius Caesar style.
And if you haven't seen the fan art pictures of Guilliman and
Oh,
Utin,
I've seen them, and
they-
they're wholesome. I really like
they're
them.
the most wholesome
They
pictures
are.
you can imagine
Hmm.
because
He's one of the few. See, this is why I like this stuff because everybody's like, oh, and normal. I like this too to a degree where it's like, oh, he's curves and he's like super fucked up, and it's like my dark version of a Primarch, super edgy, and then he's just got like really wholesome stuff. You got like Dorn and his blanket, his affection, and then you got Guilliman and his mom. You're like, oh, this is a nice, some wholesome content. I like this. Yeah, it's nice.
It's such a girl boss like upbringing and shit.
Aw.
It's like he was the best. He was always the best. Yeah. See, look, he's got parents that love. Fuck that.
Okay, no, but he's got the sick fuck had parents. Piece of shit.
Give me the orphan who was shit on from the fucking time he was born.
Oh.
Makes a more interesting story.
But going off for that, he was raised through basically with the McCragan High Riders. His dad was assassinated, and Guilliman said, I have enough of this shit, and he took control of the planet.
Damn,
Okay.
did you hear that? He was raised by high riders.
I see that.
But
High riders.
to talk about McCrag is very similar to Perturabos Olympia, as well as Angron's Nuceria.
Basically like ancient Greece.
Yeah, it's like an ancient Greek / Roman society.
just ended,
okay.
Rabute just ended up on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, pretty much. So where like Olympia and Perturabo was more very much Greek, and Angron was much more like probably Greek / Roman / wherever you want to fit in gladiator pits. More
McCraig
Roman
was
usually.
definitely
but-
Roman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
More Roman than
Yeah.
anything there.
And then you had Guilliman, which was sort of like the civilized Roman type stuff. Granted, ancient society, they're a bit fucked up, right? Especially in Warhammer, but it wasn't bad. We're not looking at anything super desperate. We're like, oh, it's a death world. Oh, is this? Oh, people are working in factories and have no time for recreation, like Fulgrim's place and everything else. It was actually a decent place to live. And at
Yeah,
that point,
I think they describe McCraig as more like Renaissance era Rome.
yeah, it was
thriving.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. So it's like an actual good upbringing for a Primarch, which was exceedingly rare. Like this dude landed in the jackpot. Okay. So it was a very nice thing, but also there was a lot of political, like Byzantine cutthroat stuff going on, right? Because in any civilized society, if you remove the barbarity from the world, the barbarity continues, but in the form of politics, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and that's where Guilliman started to form and foster his own special gift, which was being the diplomat and also the logistics, right? He played the quote-unquote the civilized game, right? He wasn't so much as concerned about warfare and everything else, so that was part of life. It was very much more of a, how does a civilized society function and
What if
thrive?
McCraig is just
Silly
Imperial,
human while
like,
you were out
what,
mastering.
what if McCraig is just high gothic for Microsoft?
silly mortal
our
while
ancient
you were out
our ancient relic, we found it.
while you were out mastering the blade, I was out mastering Microsoft Excel.
Ass. But no, when we think about it, in a quote unquote optimal society is the wrong word to use, but in like a civilized society, okay, we're not backwards, not super oppressed, not anything else like that. What is something the skills you're going to need to know more, right? To go around and to wage wars against your enemies and everything else, or is it going to be creating the logistics of your own land and making sure that hey, the actual like the boring stuff. This already was previously a part of an interstellar empire. Not anymore, but it wasn't the empire it once was or would be eventually. But
That's part of Ultramar, right? That whole system.
yeah, the realm of Ultramar, yeah. And McCraig used to be basically the shit, but then Old Night happened, it kind of was no longer the shit. But they still knew that they were a spacefaring society, everything else, but it wasn't really, the logistics weren't in place, right?
The 500 worlds of McCraig.
Oh yes, and we'll get more into detail about that in a bit. But long story short, that's the long and short of it. Okay, so it's not super dramatic. It's not anything else. But the biggest thing we have to take away is that Guilliman had probably the best upbringing, right? If we want to talk about kids growing up and having like the best nature versus nurture, Guilliman was one in both categories, right? So for some Primarchs, they had to like really struggle a lot to basically make their homeworld a good place or a livable place. Guilliman landed in fertile soil, but he also still continued working hard to make that fertile soil be the best it could be.
Guilliman pretty much had it better than...
Oh yeah, he did. That's one of the big things. Guilliman
I can't
100%
think
did have
of
it better.
anybody that really he had it better.
He
I
really
mean,
did.
Yeah.
Like,
He had a mom, he had a dad, he had a good civilization, he wasn't any fucked up shit happened. I
Lion
mean,
was
aside
on
from
a
his
death.
dad.
Lion was on a death world. Fucking
Oh, Lion
Fulgrim
deserved it, so.
Fulgrim was on a like fucking chemical mining plant.
that was kind of
Yeah.
like a death world too. Because
Perturabo
That was the
Olympia.
Ted Kaczynski nightmare world. Yeah.
Jagatai Khan kind of just lived free doing his thing.
yeah, he was in a feudal world.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I think arguably Jagatai was the only one who was on par for the
Well,
most
even
part.
then with Jagatai.
I mean, I guess in his own sense, like
Yeah.
for everybody else, they'd have been like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Jagatai had to do obviously a lot more fighting, so probably whatever. But
Yeah, I
also
mean,
Jagatai
once he
that free
took out
spirit.
like
Lehman
once he
was
took
raised
out the
by
main
wolves.
cities.
Yeah. long story short, that was the big deal. Okay. And then it comes time for basically his meeting with the Emperor.
Well, that one was actually interesting because the Emperor landed at a neighboring planet and he heard a bunch of stories. He was like, oh, he's not here. He's over there. You want to go over there and see this guy? And he was like, oh, shit. But due to warp storms, he ended up not showing up until like 5 years later. And Rabute had already been like ruling the planet for 5 years. And he came back and like everything was...
It was like self-sufficient, and it was engaging in trade with nearby systems.
Yeah, yeah.
So he had the UPS logistics down to a T at that point.
Yeah. Some of the planets that the Primarchs landed on knew that they were a spacefaring civilization, while others did not because of the progression of Old Night. But they interacted, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily like an empire, right? So we're talking about the 500 worlds, the realm of Ultramar, stuff like that. That used to be a thing. That would be a thing in the future. When Guilliman was there, he was starting to kind of like emerge, and given enough time, he would have started doing that. But he hadn't. It was just McCrack whenever the Emperor arrived. Right. And that leaves Dorn as the only one who was actually like interstellar empire type deal whenever the Emperor rose. So just to clarify that a little bit.
But yeah, so impressed by this, the Emperor assigned command of the Ultramarines Legion to Guilliman and relocated the base to McCrag.
Easy.
He was like, here you go.
You'll just love to see everything go right, you know? It's pretty great. Not like
It's-
no major
But
fuck-ups.
it's the most Guilliman thing ever. It's so
like-
vanilla, just, I'm impressed.
Well,
here
yeah,
you go.
Sometimes
Thank
vanilla
you.
is good, especially whenever the vanilla is surrounded by like 18/19 other flavors of fucked up.
But that's the thing
Yeah.
is when we don't like that's the girl boss thing that I see, because that's, you see a lot of that shit nowadays in like movies and TV that you
Robust
see.
girly
It's
boss.
like it's the greatest example is the new Star Wars like threequel and shit. Right, you have
Chat
Rey-
is having two parents girl bossing.
No, what's girl bossing is that, let's see, he's already like perfect. He's growing up and no real
He's a Primarch.
no real adversity, no real like actual problems outside of like logistically fucking making things better. He's already good at it. And I don't get it. Yes, he is a Primarch and shit, sure, by all means. But that like
He's a
there's
Primarch.
no real character development there.
Yeah, I know. There's no
to-
character development. Yeah, that's entirely true. Yeah, he hasn't had his struggle yet. Yeah. I mean, we want to look at anybody, specifically Primarchs.
That comes later when he starts making all of his fuck ups.
that comes later in what, Imperium Secundus?
He has fucked up, 100%. I'm not a fanboy saying he didn't fuck up.
Because that
by
is
any
a big
means.
fuck up.
But one of the big things, also looking back to this, to tie this into something I sort of wish I went up further on last episode, is we're looking at anybody. Troubles and the fuck ups, as well as the mistakes and trials people go through, define who they are, right? Obviously, so in that case, the stuff that, so obviously, good example, Angron going through the butcher's nails kind of defined who he was, right? And on top of that, his struggles of being a gladiator, having to go through all this stuff, defined who he was, right? Same for Russ having to do stuff, the Khan having to go unite his planet, what Fulgrim did and would later do, everything else. It defines who they are. Guilliman was kind of rare in the fact of he did not have these defining moments, at least not in the extent that the other Primarchs did, right? He
'cause
still
even-
had stuff.
Even Mortarion grew up like really in a shitty fucking spot.
Yeah, because again, we're talking Guilliman's sort of top of the pile in terms of like where he landed, his nurture growing up. All the other Primarchs, 100%. Guilliman had the best. Yeah. But Guilliman this is where I love him, because all the other Primarchs had their fuck ups and the crazy ass shit happened to them early on, right? And that, some of them scarred them. Some of them, it made them become badasses and loyalists. Guilliman has his fuck ups later on in life, and we're going to talk about this plenty enough.
He's a late bloomer.
He is a late bloomer, yes, and that's what I'm saying. If
He's
we're
a
looking
grower,
at
not a
if we're looking at Guilliman, I unironically think Guilliman's one of the few Primarchs that is significantly more interesting 40k than 30k.
I can see that.
And I will live and die by that statement. But his story begins at Calth, and we'll get to that. But long story short, whenever he eventually went around and he was in control of McCrag and he got his legion, he took the same very logistical mindset of everything else and pragmatic to the legion. Therefore, the Ultima symbol, which is the little upside down toilet seat,
the toilet seat.
the Ultima, also known as the Omega symbol, is what he gave the legion.
Hey, Ultramarines, if you didn't want us to shit on you, why'd you make your heraldry a toilet seat?
Yeah, I do hate the heraldry though. Yeah, they could have chosen any cool like Roman aesthetic for the heraldry, and they chose a fucking Ultima. God, I hate it. Anyways,
Well, you know. Or the horseshoe, depending on how they wear it on their
Or that.
fucking arms.
So yeah, obviously in quote unquote real world, our world, we have that's the Omega symbol. In their world, it's called the Ultima symbol. Real quick, I gotta be honest, I don't know the actual relevance in regards to what the symbol meant or anything else. It was like a little Superman. Oh, the S stands for hope. I'm not sure if any shit like that was.
Starts with an H.
Yeah.
Stupid.
God, I love that fucking skit. You gotta splice that in there.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But the biggest thing, because again, a lot of this stuff doesn't happen. His character development and the Legion's character development doesn't start until the Horus Heresy. He took that pragmatic design into the Legion, right? Where he wasn't worried too much about flourish or anything else. He knew it had a place, but he wasn't going to overindulge like Fulgrim, but he wasn't going to be super pragmatic and no heraldry, no anything else like Iron Warriors, right? But he found a good balance. He found the middle.
Hey, they
Yeah.
have hazard stripes.
Fuck them. Anyways. Yeah, one note. Anyways. But this is where the Ultramarines were different from every other Legion, right? Because Guilliman looked at the galaxy and he saw, hey, my brothers have different talents, and I got talents too. But the one thing that the Imperium will always need, and something that we can fill our roles best in, is knowing what to do in every situation, right? So that way, wherever the fuck we are needed, we will fulfill. If we need to man a wall with the Imperial Fist, we will know what the fuck to do. We're not going to be left behind, you know? If we need to do fast attack with the White Scars, we know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
Now, because they aren't specialized, they're never going to be the best in any one category, right? But when it comes to, I guess, logistics and actual ruling and being multi-faceted in combat to war, as well as civilian life, by the way, the Ultramarines were second to none. We always hear about what the Astartes wanted to do after the Great Crusade, right? So our men want to have a wine vineyard. The Emperor's children were all like artsy-fartsy, let's go paint, let's do poems, everything else. The Ultramarines were actually very similar to that. And Guilliman was one of the few Primarchs that specifically prepared his sons for the end of the war. And this is an attitude that he also kept up all the way into M41, saying, hey, if you are my son, you were made for war. But at the same time, it would be a fucking waste for you just to use your brain for war. And that's why also a lot of the stuff they did is he would challenge his sons to kind of think outside the box, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was before Guilliman came along and invented the box. But that being said, he would go around and say, hey, why don't you guys discuss this philosophy and how we could turn this into war? What's the ethos of doing this? Or, how's the best way to rule a civilian population so they don't rebel? What's the best way to manage resources to prevent a famine?
Make sure to write a manual down on it.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, that comes later. And that was also, Codex. I love the Codex so much. We'll get into that also in a little bit.
Codex.
But long story short,
I thought by that point he had already been writing like manuals for war and manuals for...
he had been writing, if I remember correctly, he'd been writing like treaties, but he was also encouraging his son to write treaties, but they were very small scale. So whenever we're talking about the Codex, the Codex is the Bible of the Astartes, okay? And that won't come into play until after the Horus Heresy, but he was still doing them more as like thought exercises, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be a case of, hey, here's how we wage this war. And then also his sons would go around and say, hey, oh, well, what if we got together and discussed the best way to break a siege, right? And they would do that, and almost like academics, they would sort of like write down the treaties, and they would publish it among the legion saying, here's the newest findings from our campaign at this conflict about how we think it would be best to break a siege against a Xenos that can tunnel
Please
through the
attend
ground.
our seminar for our after action report.
Unironically, yeah. I would say Ultramarines are the guys who gave TED Talks as part of the Legion curriculum, okay? Which was really fucking weird, but also it makes sense, right? So, I mean, we've all had to do, like, whether it's, like, high school or anything else, or even, like, learning a new skill for a job, we've always had times we had to, like, work on skills, right? If you are a superhuman being who is not only, buff as fuck, a fucking warrior, everything else, but also you got, like, photogenic memory, you can learn stuff at an unprecedented rate. Can you imagine if you're breeding a new level of like, let's just say like nuclear scientists, okay? Or like cutting edge one field or another. As humans, it takes us a long fucking time to learn this shit, right? We got to go around, learn it. We try to test ourselves to know we understand the subject. If a Space Marine picks up a book about aircraft engineering, they read the book once, and then they fiddle around with it for a little bit, they can master the entire field in like probably a year, which is insane. So think about how that can also further like scientific development and development in any area, right?
Yeah.
So Guilliman was not only the jack of all trades, he was also utilizing Space Marines in an entirely unorthodox way to improve the standard of the Imperium. Because as Space Marines, they're not only your best warriors, but they can be your best scientists, they can be your best philosophers, they can be your best rulers. These are literal superhumans. Why are we only using them for war? Right? And that's what makes it interesting. Because we're not looking at just warriors or anything else.
Yeah.
We're looking at the statesman. We're looking at the diplomat, stuff like that. So I'm not going to dwell on that too long, but
so
yeah,
because I did some autism research right now on the Omega symbol.
Yeah.
And it says that there isn't a single like definitive explanation as to what it means, but there are certain suggestions. So one of them is an etymological connection. So the symbol representing finality symbolizes the Ultramarines' extreme dedication and zealotry. So that's one. The upside down Omega, saying that some sources suggest that the symbol is upside down, meaning the opposite of finality, implying a victory over or transcendence of the end. Something it's a Greek and Roman inspiration. With the Omega symbol, often associated with the concept of ender completion, turning it upside down could be a creative twist reflecting the Legion's values and personality. Or, well, then another one says connection to Ultramar, which, no shit, Ultramarines are linked to the realm of Ultramar. Fucking, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Someone said it's an Omega sign because Rabute Guilliman is actually Omegon.
That's a conspiracy theory we'll go into later. Oh.
So yeah, it's they one of the suggestions is that they turn the Omega symbol upside down to mean the opposite of the end, or like transcending past the end and finality and shit like that.
That's interesting.
Which would make sense why it's upside down, but
so that's one of the main things that reason why I also like Guilliman and the Ultramarines, right? Because we think of Guilliman as, like we were saying earlier, right? He's the Microsoft Excel guy. He's like, logistics, everything else, but he's not. He's the guy that whenever you got him and all the other Primarchs lined up and the Emperor says charge, he stops and says, wait, but wouldn't it be better if we went around the side and then came out the back? He was the unorthodox thinker. That's who Guilliman was.
Captain Pivot Tables over here.
Yeah, no, pretty much, because that's what he did. He pivoted every single angle to work out a different way, because no other Legion, not even the Emperor, was like, oh yeah, Space Marines as diplomats, because they can literally think faster, be better. They have the actual physicalities to be a diplomat and show force. They were better at everything. They're transhuman, So Guilliman's not the vanilla guy. He's the break the mold guy.
Except it was more probably like, Dad, I figured out a thing to make this do better. And he started like blabbing off a whole bunch of things. And he was like, what? Shut up, Rabute.
Yeah.
Yes, go on. I have shit better to do.
Well, exactly.
Listen, this is your thing. You take care of it. Just let me know when you're done.
But Dad, I didn't. The chain of command, though.
Go away. I'm drinking.
The chain of command. Shut up, Malkador. Get him.
But Dad, we got these 10 new treaties from like 10 different war zones, and they all say this way works better.
Well, congratulations. Now Malkador is now over you. Malkador, you to get rid of him.
Malkador, it's in here again.
Yeah, but also that's why a lot of his brothers hated him. Right?
Malkador's in here, and Lehman's pissing on the carpet.
But it was that sort of respect, right? So obviously any of the other Primarchs who were very much more, I guess we say molded in their...
I'm sorry, dude.
What? Why?
He said
Lehman's
in here pissing on the carpet again. All I see is Malkador rubbing his nose in it with a fucking rolled up newspaper, just hitting him. Just like, no.
Bad Lehman, no.
God damn it. I'm sorry, dude. My brain just pictured that and it took me somewhere else.
just crippled old Malkador.
just bopping him with a rolled up
beating
newspaper.
the shit out of a fucking 9 foot tall fucking Primarch.
It's like you're just rubbing his nose all up in it.
No, Lehman, bad Lehman.
Oh shit, I'm sorry, go on.
No, that's good. But yeah, that was the main reason a lot of his brothers would either like him or have issue with him, right? Because at the end of the day, if he's the guy who's constantly being like push up Nurglass to be like, actually, I think we could do it this way because this treatise says this, and I found this way works better. It gets aggravating. Okay, you ever known the guy who likes to fucking poke his hand up and be like, oh, I know a better way, I can do this shit, and he starts talking? It could be a legitimately better way, but it gets annoying as fuck.
Who was it?
Shut up, Gerald. No one cares.
Literally,
Yeah, I can agree with that because there also was, who was it? One of the other Primarchs made a mention about Guilliman. It's like Guilliman is he basically called Guilliman really pompous and arrogant because he thinks that he can write the book on war.
Yeah.
I forget who it was that said that, but I was like, you know, that's
Was it Lorgar?
I don't think it was Lorgar. I have to look that up. But yeah, I remember them saying that. I was like, you know what? That's a very fair fucking point.
Yeah.
It's like Guilliman is so.
I don't
about
know.
the
Fucking
theoreticals and
Guilliman gets
practicals.
dunked on a lot whenever it comes to like speech versus speech.
What do you mean?
Because who was it? Fucking Angron kind of gave him the business in whenever he became
New Syria, whenever they
New Syria, because you know, he gave the whole, you know, you have no idea what the fuck it's like, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
Mortarion gave him the speech in Plague Wars where he was like, maybe I should refer to one of your manuals.
Yeah.
Is that before the Emperor basically channeled himself through Rubute to talk to?
That was like right before.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I do remember.
And
that.
then who was it? He wasn't there, but Lehman Russ hit him. Lehman Russ hit him with the whole like list of fucking Primarchs he could kill. He mentioned that Rabute would be too busy fucking worrying about the fucking logistics of the battle to fucking have a good fight.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and that's where his big downside comes in, right? Because going back to that, which is fair criticism, saying, well, he had an easy life pretty much compared to all the other Primarchs. That's true, and that was one of his weaknesses, right? You got the guy who sees things a bit different than everybody else, right? He got the tism, but at the same time, he thinks,
Bro, he got racked with the tism.
oh yeah, no, he's the autism. We found the guy. But that being said, it made him a little bit haughty, right? It made him very much a little bit self-centered, because if everybody else is doing one thing and you choose a different path, oftentimes it leads to you being like, look at those suckers. They're taking the highway. I'm taking the back roads, which is a little shortcut, actually. They don't know this, you know? Is that type of attitude, so to say. So there was definitely, especially in the early years, which very quickly dissipated in 41. We'll get to that. But that's what happened. And the Ultramarines all aspired to Guilliman, right? Because they saw him almost as the perfect Primarch, okay? But they saw him a lot of the times as perfect, not only because, hey, he's our dad, but also because he didn't have what could be viewed as negatives, right? So obviously, Perturabo, he's very pragmatic, but at the same time, he's a bit of an ass. Fair?
Yeah.
Fair?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Big ass.
Yeah. Guilliman was an ass, but also he didn't have a reason to be an ass, right? And same goes for any other Primarch struggle, right? He never struggled, and a lot of the Ultramarines saw that as, oh, because our Primarch's just better, right? So there was definitely an air of, oh, well, we're better because we are the 13th Legion. Yes, we are the Ultramarines. Courage and honor. So their metal wasn't really tested.
Guilliman.
Guilliman! We float from a crag. Still love that fucking scene. Anyways. But we'll get on that later. But long story short, during the Great Crusade, the Ultramarines engaged in the standard campaign, and there's not too much I really want to cover about the Great Crusade, except for one part, which is the 2nd and 11th Legion. Anybody else have anything before I get onto that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of the legions, so for context, for those who don't know, in 30K, there was no cap on the size of a
Dead ass?
legion or anything, right? So what?
Is it dead ass?
Dead ass.
There's no cap dead ass.
No cap, dead ass, 100% on fleet,
Skibbity
bro.
toilet.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Goddamn brain rot! Do you know how much shit I have to hear about that? I work.
What
I hear that too much.
What is skibbity toilet?
Bro, we've already had so many tangents. Holy shit. Okay. There was a shitpost animation made by somebody And the entire animation was literally just do you guys know what Gmod is? It is Gmod was a video game. And do you guys know what Half-Life is?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of assets from Half-Life and Half-Life 2 and a lot of other games made by Valve was put into this new game called Gmod or Gary's Mod. And it had a
Gary's Mod.
Yeah, Gary's Mod, yeah. And it had a
I know
whole
you're
bunch
talking
of
about.
different assets. And people usually, when they don't know the super high-tech stuff, will make stuff in make stuff in Gmod, like animation, stuff like that. This dude made a shitpost animation where it was like one of the default NPC heads from like Half-Life, and as well as a few other guys. And for whatever reason, like brain rot, made it to where like, they emerged from a toilet and they would just like do this little song. The song when like part of it was like skibbity yada yada yada, skibbity yada yada. It was a pattern, right? But it was a super shitty animation, but it gathered a cult following and it got really big, where it was like these heads coming out of toilets was facing against these other regular humans, but their heads were like speakers or some shit, and they fucking fought, and there's mechas involved later. It's brain rot. Anyways, it gathered a following, so therefore Skibbity Toilet, because the song Skibbity, and the toilet because that's what you saw was the head coming out of the toilet, so Skibbity Toilet. And Skibbity Riz is charisma.
All right,
Fuck
y'all,
you for making me explain this.
All right, y'all, you heard it first. Drop a skibbity toilet in the
Go
comment
fuck
section,
yourself.
please, and in the Discord.
Hashtag skibbity toilets.
Well,
Hashtag skibbity riz.
50 likes and we drop a Gen Z slang term. Fucking video, go. Anyways, you guys want to talk about everything else except for this?
If you want to blow Step Bro's brain out,
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so we
Skibbity
talked
toilet in the
about
comments.
25 likes on this video, and we'll have Stepbro make skibbity carn.
No, we are not. No.
What?
No.
no, you don't touch Karn.
The worst part is you could actually do that with Gmod.
Oh,
Skibbity
can we make
Guilliman.
skibbity
No.
emperor?
Yeah, you could.
Oh,
Let's do
It's
it.
Gmod. It's easy
let's
as
make
fuck.
skibbity
No,
emperor.
we're not. No.
how about skibbity dorn?
Skibbity dorn.
I hate you all. Anyways, moving on.
Skibbity Sigismund.
Oh yes.
I've had to explain the cum jar. I've had to explain Skibbity Toilet. Is there anything else you want me to fucking explain this episode?
Not yet. We'll get to that later then.
Stepbro, can you please explain all your base are belong to us?
What?
Wow, you don't know that one?
No, what do you say? I didn't hear what you said.
All of your base are belong to us?
All of your base are belong to us?
Mhm.
No idea.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
That was like the olden times.
Yeah.
Don't recite the old magic to me, witch. I
No,
was
it's
there when
when
it
it
was
was
written.
Oh, God. Where were we?
So,
The one part of the Great Crusade you wanted to touch on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
Skibbity Reboot.
God damn it.
skibbity booty.
100 likes, I blow my brains out on stream.
Add that to the list. Add that name to the list.
Skibbity booty.
Well, boys, we got 300 subs. I peaked in life. Goodbye. But, yeah, during 30K, there was no cap on how many Space Marines you could have in a Legion.
Trio's
Okay.
down to 2.
God. As such, you had Legion sizes ranging.
Okay, continue.
I'm composing myself. 1 second. There is a little oopsie called the 2nd and 11th Legion. We don't know what the fuck happened to them. Okay,
One of them's dead.
one of them is dead.
One of them's
Probably,
dead, the other
assumably.
one's
They're off areas,
probably
but going on from that, what we do know is that the average Legion size was 100,000 Marines. Okay, 100,000. That's a fuck ton. One of the legions, and potentially partial, some of both, or maybe just we don't fucking know, was dealt with. In what manner, we don't know. Presumably by Russ. Could be selling out. We don't fucking know. Presumably by Russ again. But the long story short, the Ultramarines took in all the people that were part of that legion and their legion. We do know that for a fact. Okay. As such, the Ultramarines had a crazy fucking amount of Marines. The average size of a legion was 100,000. The Space Marines, the Ultramarines had 250,000 Marines.
yeah.
250,000, over double the vast majority of other legions. Okay. And this is why
because we're
later
better
during the
than
Horse
you.
Heresy they would be so instrumental, because holy shit, that's a lot of fucking Space Marines.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
If you think about it, let's see, 1% of the population of this country is said to be in the military.
Yeah.
We have 330 million people. 1% of that would be what, like 330,000 give or take.
I'm not doing math. You maybe explain Scooby
Yeah, no, I'm kind of masking shit. But if I'm correct, that would mean that they had basically what the population of this freaking country is times 1%. Yeah, 3.3 million people in this country
Damn.
are said to be in the military. So I don't know what the population of McCrag is and shit like that.
Oh,
but
yes.
250,000 people. I can almost, well, yeah, you said McCrag is pretty much kind of like hive cities and shit like that too, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit less like dystopian Hive City, and it was more actually livable, but it was still a lot of people.
So saying that they had
Hive cities
330
without the
million
corpse
people.
starch.
Yeah.
It was actually supposedly, according to what we've heard, everything else, McCrag was actually a really nice place to live, and they didn't have the actual Hive City setup. It was actually almost like actually living in an actual house. You have actual stuff. The cities were cities, but not like hives. It was generally like not modern day, but the infrastructure was more similar to modern day, like what you see today,
Well,
than
like
it was
New York City, basically.
Yeah, like New York
Kinda
City
like
type
that.
stuff. Yeah.
So it wouldn't be out of the realm to say that they probably had about 330 million people, right?
Yeah, but yeah, not at all. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'll say so. It's
it's actually a little more than.
yeah, but not only that,
1%.
the realm of Ultramar
Or
had their
less.
own unique thing whenever it came to their people, right? Because very quickly the realm of Ultramar was reestablished to where it's the 500 worlds, which was in the realm of Ultramar, right? And you had the quote-unquote capital of McCrag.
Yeah.
That was a sort of pre-existing empire before the Imperium sort of came along. Now they were still fully indoctrinated into the Imperium, but the actual rule of those 500 worlds was left fully up to the Ultramarines, okay? And Guilliman. He had his own little mini empire to basically hold on to, which was pretty cool. But it had to this day in M41, for the entire history of the Imperium, the 500 worlds have the highest standard of living by any fucking measure. I'm saying if you are in M41, and if you are like, you say, oh, if I go into 40K, it's gonna be hellscape. If you actually live in the realm of Ultramar, you are actually having a good quality of living. Like you will not hate your life. It's actually reasonable.
Yeah. So it's basically the USA
Yeah.
of the galaxy.
Yeah, like the rest of the world's living in like some Indian hive city, and USA we have like suburbia. Yeah.
No
So
shit.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So it's pretty cool. So anyways, they go out and they were the guys, right? So they have 250,000 guys. They have a full infrastructure. They have great quality of living. The entire plan, at least the unspoken plan, it wasn't like actually drafted up, was that the Imperium, when everything was done, it wouldn't be like the current hellscape we see in the Imperium. All the worlds would supposedly follow after the McCragian model and be actually livable places. This is where we have to understand the tone shift between M41 and the Great Crusade. Because if the Emperor got his way, you would still have hive cities, you still have some shit like that, but the quality of living would actually be a decent place to live. The Emperor was determined on make the galaxy ours, and after that we improve upon it, right? Once we guarantee our soil is good, then we start doing the Guilliman thing of improving the soil that we're in. Whatever the intent truly was, or whatever the full intent was, at the very least the understanding across most of baseline humanity / the people who are kind of forging that future was that it would be like, hey, we're going to live sort of like McCrag, you know? We're not going to live in like dystopian hellscape of M41. We're going to try to go and live a reasonable life. So they were a force to be reckoned with inside the Imperium, which set them up as the most prosperous part of the galaxy, right?
Right.
Hence the entire like Segmentum Ultima is called Segmentum Ultima because it's the realm of Ultramar is the main segmentum inside the realm, the eastern side of the galaxy, right? That's how big it is. You name an entire quarter of the galaxy after the fucking realm of Ultramar. Now, here's the big deal. Horus fucked up. He fucked up pretty fucking bad. Okay? So, the biggest deal is Guilliman was not involved. He's one of the few legions that was not involved in any capacity with like ISFAN 3, ISFAN 5. It wasn't involved in any of that shit.
No, no, he was pretty much, he was on the 500 worlds of McCrag doing his thing.
Yeah. He was even whenever like Dorn was sending out the retribution fleet, all that was happening, he had no fucking idea. Because the biggest thing that happened is on the waning days of the Great Crusade, when they thought, oh, victory secured, my son, soon you'll be the rulers of Ultramar, and we'll have this great and prosperous future. The only thing he heard was from War Master Horus. And it was at one of the biggest wogs ever seen, ever since they conquered the Orc homeworld. Ulanor, later renamed Armageddon. Basically that, hey, the final remnants of that are finally gathering up, and we need to kill off the Orcs once and for all. So we meet up with the Word Bearers and the World Eaters, and then go and kill all of them. Okay, and that was what Guilliman understood, and that's what they planned to do. And then we get into the Betrayal of Calth, which is one of the most insanely, the highest number of Space Marines dying in the shortest amount of time ever recorded in Warhammer history. Like, far none. At this point, this very, very long pre-planned event goes into effect, and the Word Bearers show up along with the World Eaters, and the Word Bearers do all the talking, no surprise. And at that point, they meet up, and they get, the way they do that in the book, Betrayal of Calth, is so fucking, it's sublime. It's a gentle dagger that only Lorgar could pull off. And while Guilliman is ready to go meet his brothers, and all the Ultramarines are ready to greet the Word Bearers and everything else, suddenly out of nowhere, the fucking guns turn on and fire on the Ultramarines, and in sync, almost like a fucking switch turned on, all these Word Bearers and everything else that went off, shook hands with the Ultramarines, everything else, turned around and gunned them the fuck down. Okay? Because the vast majority of the Legion went to Calth for this shit. Because that was the last hurrah. That was like, hey, this is our last big campaign of the Great Crusade. We have to earn honor before the Great Crusade ends, or else there will be none for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Legion numbers estimated before this happened was 250,000, 250,000. After a few days' time at Betrayal of Calth, do you know what the number was?
It was less than 100,000, wasn't it?
Less than 100,000. Granted, not by much, but that's over 150,000 Space Marines killed in the span of a few days. 150. Transhuman, genetically almost perfect warriors. Just gone. Out of the fucking fight. Now for the traitors.
And that wasn't even like the main goal of it. The main goal of it was to open up the Ruin Storm, wasn't it?
No, so Ruin Storm was, when the Ruin Storm came into effect, was unknown. The initial idea was to basically have the Word Bearers and the World Eaters take care of the Ultramarines. Now granted, Horus assumed that, hey, they're probably not gonna, it's too much even for two legions, and it's fucking Guilliman versus fucking Lorgar, who was touched as a kid, and we have fucking angry-ass Angron. Horus put his bet on Guilliman, right? So his entire idea was, hey, in order to keep Guilliman out of the fight, these are the two legions that I can kind of spare the most of and will be best for the task. So we're just going to send these guys against Guilliman to keep him busy while we head towards Terra. And they did exactly that. Now, Guilliman, to his credit, handled it immaculately well. When the entire Betrayal of Calth happened, shit went south really fucking fast, okay? And also, Cor Pharaon was 2 seconds away from killing Guilliman, but he decided to monologue.
Yeah, decided it was the perfect part for a fucking dialogue.
Mm-hmm. He could have almost like guaranteed won the entire fucking Horus Heresy right there, but no, the motherfucker had a dialogue.
Bro, Cor Pharaon could have been like getting hip hip hurrahed by all of his fucking battle brothers for killing Guilliman, but no, he had to. Oh, you thought you were so smart, weren't you?
Yes. Why don't you join me, Guilliman? Come over to Chaos. It's so much fun. They have candies. Please. And there's worksheets and Excels and math problems. You can come over here, but it's fun.
Bro, the funniest part in that whole book was when they fucking like jettisoned him out into space.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, we jettisoned out of space and killed him. Oh, go. He's just angry now. Oh, fuck.
Oh no, he's pissed.
Oh, he's just pissed. This is one of the biggest blows. And this is also where, like, quote-unquote, Guilliman has, like, his character moment, right? So we talked about before, the other Primarchs have their moments before all the shit happens, so they have the struggles they have to overcome. Yeah. This is Guilliman's fucking hell moment, okay? So for context, the first, like, 2 hours, whenever this has happened, Guilliman thinks that this is, like, the most tragic mistake that has ever happened. Because he cannot physically fathom that another Primarch or another Astartes would turn on a brother. He kept on trying to radio Lorgar and just be like, yo, stop, ew, mistake, blue on blue, fucking stop it. And the entire time, the shells kept coming.
Yeah.
He had no fucking idea. And they had to spend like a decent amount of time finally him coming to terms with, no, they're trying to kill me. But in his credit, he turns around and fucking does pretty good. He managed to save the Legion. And for like the remainder of the Horus Heresy, effectively, Calth is continually turned into a war zone. Like, because at this point, the top is ruined, but the Ultramarines continue basically guerrilla fighting with the labyrinths and caverns underneath Calth until it became basically underground warfare. They're basically fighting through the giant catacombs of Calth, literally lined with the dead, both freshly rotting and ancient.
Nice.
So, during that time, he has to deal with Lorgar and Angron. And it becomes the world's most frustrating fucking game of cat and mouse ever. Where basically, like we mentioned before in the Angron episode, hey, we're pissed off, I want to kill that planet. Hey, I want to pissed off, we kill that planet.
Yeah.
But they kept on fucking back and forth, different planets, everything else, because Lorgar at that point is doing the Rune Storm. There's nobody knows about. And Guilliman's just desperately trying to fucking squash out fires as fast as they pop up. Right? And finally, it all comes down to Nysaria. And in the fight, a lot of fucking Ultramarines die. And yeah, we've already covered this for the most part. But long story short, although Guilliman technically loses and he kind of retreats, that's for the most part the end of it. Because once the Rune Storm's active, the other two legions kind of fuck off and the Ultramarines are kind of left stranded. Okay?
Yeah, he fucking chucked deuces as soon as he saw Angron as a fucking giant demon. It's like, okay, yeah, I should probably go back.
I got to get back to my Excel document. Yeah.
I gotta
Theoretical, he just turned into a big red demon. Practical, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yes, I have to go update the spreadsheets.
Yeah. So, in order to, for the sake of time, we're going to briefly go over Imperium Secundus. Okay. During this time of the Rune Storm, he builds a second kingdom, and he basically lines up and finally meets up with Sanguinius as well as the Lion, and he forms Imperium Secundus. This is a big deal for one main reason. By him forming another fucking system of government, he is, at least partially, saying the old one is dead, I'm moving forward.
Well, he thought that because he couldn't reach anybody else, so he thought that Terra and everything was fucking destroyed. He's like,
that's
oh, shit.
true.
But a lot of people could consider that heresy.
Oh no, that definitely was heresy if you want to go by the book.
I mean,
especially in a world where one guy just said, I want to be the king.
Yes.
This is true. Yeah.
Yeah, so if Civil War breaks out and then one guy just can't get radio contact with his teammates, and then he says, well, fine, I'm making my own government.
Yeah.
It's justified, but also how do you think everybody else is going to feel when they realize you could have been here 2 days earlier and we could have saved a lot of lives?
Yeah.
Especially considering Rabute Guilliman showed up at the ass end of the Horus Heresy.
Yes, and also considering after the Horus Heresy, nobody trusted anybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
All. Even the loyalists did not trust each other. So, that being said, that happened. Obviously, they very quickly found out, Imperium's still alive. Let's pretend this never fucking happened. Spoiler alert, it comes up again. So, the one thing I do want to mention...
When did you say it came up?
Oh, recent 40K. This is the big fucking bombshell that dropped at the end of the Plague Wars, and we'll get into that in 40. But the ramifications for this shit, whenever GW decides to act on it, is going to explode 40K. Unironically, explode 40K.
Okay, so when we get to the 40K, I
trust me, we got a segment. I'm trying to rush through Horus Heresy right now.
Yeah. I have a question, and it has to do with the Tyrannic War. That's why.
Oh yeah, trust me, we got plenty for 40K. Yeah. I'm just trying to keep this under 2 hours so we can, so I don't have to shoot myself with editing again.
Theoretically, we can keep it under 2 hours. Practically, tangents make it over 2 hours.
So during this time, stuff happens. They get Kurz. Kurz meets Guilliman. Guilliman tells him to fuck off in one of the greatest scenes in fucking Horus Heresy. Guilliman lives. Yay. And eventually...
God, even his mom has plot armor.
Dude, she's fucking badass, man. Badass.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the Ultramarines at all, but fucking U10 is a fucking G.
10 out of 10. Yeah. Something about like the good female characters in 30K actually being fucking good, and then we get to 40K and it's... Anyways,
well,
at least with sometimes how they're written. But that being said, that happens. At this point, we're going into Siege of Terra. something specifically happens in Siege of Terra to where he's linking up with a whole bunch of other forces, like, of course, the Dark Angels. He's kind of grabbing the remnants, right? Of all these other loyalist forces on the outside of the Siege of Terra.
Well, all three of them left Ultramar after, or left Macragge after. After that, they were making they were making jumps through through the warp.
Yeah.
And it ended up, they had time for one of them to make it through, and the other two would have to like try, just try their best to go after him. And Sanguinius was the one that they sent through at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So they were going over there, and that's why Sanguinius was at Siege of Terra. Guilliman was hot on his heels. The Lion, being the fucking Lion, was like, "Hey, you got reinforcement on the way. You're Guilliman. You're fine. I'm gonna go to the traitors' homeworlds, and I'm just gonna fuck them up." Okay. And for the most part, that's what the Lion was doing. He was going around basically destroying like traitor homeworlds while Guilliman was doing stuff. But he did send Corswain with almost like 10,000 Astartes, and they actually reached Terra before Guilliman. And they're actually responsible for basically bringing Guilliman in.
I thought Corswain got dealt with by Typhus.
That happens during that. We're not going to cover that. But
That didn't happen.
It didn't happen. No source, doesn't matter. Corswain manages to hold basically, he goes around and takes the Astronomicon from basically traitor hands, and then he holds it with the help of Cypher, who was, surprise, surprise, he was there the entire time. They light it up just enough to where Guilliman could basically navigate his way to Terra to help break the siege. So Guilliman comes, the traitors, knowing that Guilliman's basically right on their ass and he's being summoned in, that's when they lower the shields, and that's when the Emperor Sanguinius, all them teleport in. A very big debate, and this is where we'll end 30k time frame, for the most part, is going to be what would have happened if the Emperor didn't teleport. Because I'm not joking, we're not talking about the moment of hours or days, we're talking about minutes between Guilliman arriving and just with enough fleet and manpower to fucking win outright, or would they have been a few minutes too late and Horus would have won? Because they were breaching the Imperial Palace. They were in. There was no more walls. Everything was done for. It was just free for all across the entire planet, but the entire planet was also becoming the center of the warp. But that couldn't be completed until the Emperor was killed spiritually and physically.
Well, you still had, you had what? The Imperial Fists, you had the White Scars here, or not the White Scars.
No, yeah,
they came in late though, but they were there. You still had like three legions.
The White Scars were there for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Who was it that came in late besides the?
It was only Corswain, because it was Blood Angels, White Scars, Fists, and they were there along with like.
I thought the Raven Guard.
No.
They had some Raven Guards still left there.
I mean, there was still like all legions present, but they were like kill team size.
Oh, okay.
There's there's a random space. There's like random space wall over here. You might have 10 on that wall. You might have 20 on that wall.
Yeah, it was mostly White Scars, Blood Angels, and Fists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those were like 99% of the forces. Everything else, it was like, oh, you have a random salamander.
Because that's where everybody was
warrior.
freaking out. They were like, oh, it's 6 of them against 3 of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, but going on from that, so there's a big debate to be had about whether Guilliman actually did arrive in time and if the Emperor needed to be sacrificed. Probably, but also debatably, they didn't have to do that.
Debatably
very heavily debatably, yeah. Because it was very much, Horus and everybody else knew, hey, we have to kill the Emperor body and soul or Chaos doesn't win. And that's why they had to basically lower the shields to kind of tempt them in. Loyalists on Terra said, hey, they didn't know Guilliman was coming. They didn't know Guilliman was like 30 minutes out. And that's why they did that. If they didn't go, odds are everything would have been okay. That one decision to teleport, odds are, did not need to happen.
You think you think in some way that the Emperor knew that?
No.
And he still did it because he's looking at the grander
I generally
aspect?
don't think so, no.
No?
No, because I know the Emperor is oftentimes like this omniscient godlike being, but he still had limits. And whenever, it was very clear cut that whenever it came to Horus being like the actual avatar for all 4 Chaos Gods, he was genuinely on par with the Emperor. It was not a case of, oh, the Emperor is still the Emperor, so he could easily bitch smack Horus.
And by that point, Sanguinius had already seen all the futures, and all the futures were pointing to.
Yeah.
Well, but that's what I mean. Is because the Emperor has this tendency to not tell anybody shit, but he's always thinking like 4 or 5 steps ahead.
But you'll notice that Sanguinius has one repeating line throughout the entire Siege of Terra that he tells his sons every time, because they get all worried about him being, on the gates and being on the walls and everything. And he just looks at him and says, "Do not worry, my son. I do not die today."
Yeah.
But when it comes to the Emperor, because there's all the speculation that the Emperor, if they let the Emperor die, he can become basically the anti-chaos. He can be a fifth god, but not like a chaos god. Like he would become a god to fight the other chaos gods.
See, I don't think so, because if the Emperor was not, the situation today is only as bad because of that entire shit happening. I think if he was not interred upon the Golden Throne, like he is in, let's just say canon versus hypothetical, all he had to do was basically redo the webway. With the Emperor working on the webway, I feel like it's a safe bet he eventually would have restabilized it, right? It may have taken 5,000 years or anything else, but he could have actively worked upon that. He could have actually succeeded upon the initial plan. He just down half his Primarchs, right? Not to mention, the Emperor actually could have done stuff. He could have made sure the Imperium didn't fall into the hellscape it is today.
So you may have touched on this, and I just didn't hear or whatever, but if they didn't need to teleport, then what was the point of teleporting to Horus's ship?
Because they didn't know. Because the Horus and all the traitors intercepted the signals of Guilliman saying, "Don't do anything stupid. I'm right behind them."
Well, no, not Guilliman. I'm saying like they didn't need to really leave the palace.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Malcador there. You had 3 legions, and you also had the Emperor, along with 3 Primarchs.
Yeah.
That's like even the traitor legions coming in. I mean, fucking Perturabo fucking dipped.
Where's
He's
the problem?
Nah, I'm done.
The few things. First of all, it mainly boils down to 2 points: the lack of intel as well as the resources of Horus. This is a good time to also segue, and we'll segue this later, is to the Inducti. The Inducti, or as the Chaos side has known them, is cannon fodder. So, man, that storm is not. But leading on to basically the Horus heresy, as everything was ramping up, recruitment drives were in overdrive. The traitors were unironically going to planets and pretty much grabbing every single person who could potentially be implanted with gene seed, because the attrition rate was so high, they had enough gene seed. Like they fucking had enough easily, right?
Yeah.
Space Marines, because they have 2 progenoids, one that's harvested upon death and the other one that be harvested after like 6 months, can realistically exponentially increase their ranks. Okay.
Yeah.
So that being said, whenever you have legion sizes of like 100,000, everything else, you can make a fucking millions. Okay. Realistically, within decent bit of years, especially whenever their training was rushed. Towards the end, both the loyalists and traitors were grabbing recruits, implanting them, doing like the super fucking sped up implantation, as well as basically Astartes to make them Astartes. However, at the end, they didn't train them. They didn't fucking tell them shit about Legion culture. There was no training. It was, hey, you're a Space Marine now. If you're lucky, you get a bolter, get on the fucking wall. That's about what happened. So we're talking about Legion strength, right? So we're saying, hey, the traitors on average were like 100,000 across the board for almost all the legions. By the Siege of Terra, despite the attritions, the number was likely higher for everybody. Meaning you probably had more than 100,000, even after the casualties and everything else. They either replenished or went higher for a decent bit than the losses that they sustained during like the first 6 years of the Horus heresy.
So that's what I'm saying is if they were holding off that well against Horus's forces, and sure they were getting into the palace, but
well, no, the problem is they weren't holding, because the traitors did that a fuck ton better than the loyalists, because the loyalists did not have the armor. They lost Mars. They couldn't produce the armor in the same second.
Okay.
Every second that Horus got closer, he claimed more and more worlds. So the actual logistics of getting new weaponry, new anything else, entirely cut off. So at the end of the day, the traitors could spam Space Marines as well as billions and billions and unironically billions of traitors onto the planet. And the loyalists had limited sources. They were not holding.
Well, that, and you'll notice throughout the siege too, what they would do is they'd fight up to a spot and then they'd dig in, and then they'd fight up to a spot and then they'd dig in that spot, and then they'd fight up, and they did that all the way around until finally there was just nothing left but taking down the Imperial Palace.
Oh, okay.
For context, what the traitors would also do is whenever they recruit a world, they would go grab all of their fucking resources, chuck them in the giant spearhead heading towards Terra. And at the Siege of Terra, what they unironically did, you probably got this point already, to where they would put millions inside what's basically a Space Hulk. And when they said, how the fuck are we going to land these troops? They said, we're not going to land. And they rammed the spaceship into outside as close as they could to the fucking palace. And millions of soldiers died on the impact, but it doesn't matter because they had so many ships and they had millions and millions of guys that they still just ran out. The survivors, which could have been 10% of the initial crew.
Oh, are you
was
talking
still
about
enough.
when they did when they were dropping like the initial like the humans and the
Yes.
beastmen and shit?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
That was fucking because they went through like because it went from like the point of view from the fucking Beastman where all they see is like an amalgamation of just it's all just reds and blacks.
But also the one traitor guardsman who thought, I was like, oh, I'm fighting for the freedom of my planet by joining Horus against the tyranny of the Emperor. And then he's like, these guys are acting weird. They're carving strange symbols with las guns, but I'm not going to worry about that. And his spaceship gets fucking yeeted like a slingshot into Terra. And he wakes up and like his entire company is dead because they got impacted in a fucking spaceship. But there's still millions of guys running out of that one spaceship. And those spaceships are raining constantly, not including those shot down by our anti-air fire, everything else. The Loyalists were running out of everything. And even though their numbers were probably restocked or even higher of these like less trained recruits, everything else, it was still significantly more.
Beastmen, they would have like inside the fucking thing in like almost in like fucking stables or whatever. And they just have them standing there, and they'd have like basically an iterator fucking standing there, fucking, you're fighting for your freedom. They called you freaks. They called you beast. And like the worst thing you can call a beast man is to call him a beast man. And he said they call you beast man. And he said that all you could hear throughout the entire ship is just a chorus of people just going beast, beast, beast. Beast. And then they start they like all the combat stems and all the drugs they're loaded up on start taking hold, and they start frothing. And it talks about how this one dude is like trying to keep his like thoughts straight, but like they just eventually get pulled into, he just starts fucking screaming out beast, beast.
So it's very hard to overstate the amount of like supply difference between the Loyalists and the traitors. And the second thing was, the Loyalists had no idea what the fuck was happening beyond the encirclement of Terra. So they had no idea Guilliman was on the way. They thought he's probably dead. They think the Lion's probably dead. They think all the other Primarchs probably dead, because if Horus is here, odds are he already got through him, right?
Right. Because they had already said, because that was one of the big things they were talking about, was they were like, no word from the Raven, no word from the Wolf, no word from the Lion. And they were like, nope, haven't heard anything.
Yeah. But this is a great segue into after this. So obviously Siege of Terra happens, but one of the things they start doing is actually, because they have so many fresh recruits that knew fucking nothing. Like I do mean nothing, by the way. We're not talking like any instrument at fucking all. They knew jack shit.
Yeah.
They went through augmentation. They woke up the Space Marines. Yay! Oh, frontline, go.
Yeah.
But what at least the Loyalists would do is they would usually make basically tactical squads, or what would later be known as tech squads, where they had, hey, you got one
intercessors?
Guy. Yeah, it's like, hey, we got for every 10 recruits, we got one legionnaire who knows what the fuck they're doing. So take one legionnaire who'd be the sergeant of the squad, get like the 9 fucking newbies, the green boys, give one of them who maybe excels more at like having a fucking heavy bolts or a missile launcher, and the sergeant leads the squad. And you guys basically fill whatever role you can upon the wall, or maybe like try to fight in their back forces if you find yourself behind enemy lines. And that became later the tactical squad, because you would have a sergeant, and then you would have basically the basic bitches who followed, and you might have one guy who could specialize by holding like a melta, a plasma. It helps spread out resources, right? And it's helped spread out experience across a whole bunch of inexperienced forces.
Ultramarines also are the ones that incorporated the red sergeant helmet.
Yep.
Yeah, I did see that their rank is worn basically upon their helmet. I think it's like
it was
red.
Originally a sign of censure.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Fun fact. We're talking about the TED Talk, and we'll give this a shout out. I didn't want to go too far into it because it's a rabbit hole in itself. There's enough rabbit holes already, including Skibidi Toilet apparently.
Skibidi Bootay.
Yeah, is one of the soldiers gave a TED Talk on as an Astartes, how can we kill other Astartes, just as like a thought practice. But that was such taboo that he got censored. He had the red helmet, everything else. He was actually waiting to meet with Guilliman himself to explain himself whenever the heresy popped off. And Guilliman's like, you know what? That may come in handy after all. You're hired. Anyways, so that's how it happened. But obviously after the Horus heresy, Guilliman said, we need to rebuild. As an egotist, which he is.
Oh, fucking big egotist.
Yeah. He said, who's the guy to rebuild? Me.
Big old daddy Bobby G.
Yeah, Bobby G. So he got into a fight with Dorn, okay? And the remaining loyalists, which was, what was it, 7 at the time? Yeah. Basically almost split up half and half, almost perfectly half and half, to basically either favor or oppose what Guilliman was putting forward, which was the Codex Astartes. Eventually, Guilliman won, okay? There were a long series of political bullshit, and Dorn was the main opposition. Dorn was leading the, hey, we're not going to be the Codex Astartes. Guilliman said, we need to do it. So they broke the legions up into chapters, okay? Same way that they broke up the army into different aspects. They made the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Army. For the Imperial Army, they had different types of regiments, right? So that way, if you have mechanized, you have infantry. So if one regiment turns traitor, they're kind of SOL on their own, right? Oh, you have an artillery division, great, but we can use tanks, right?
Yeah.
So it helps curb the spread of chaos. Same way for the chapters of the Space Marines, right? So therefore, Codex Astartes, you have 10 companies. You got a uniform pauldron color for each company. You only have a dedicated 1,000 Marines, not including auxiliaries, which would be scouts, and stuff like that. The only exception was if you are in a time of crusade. If a crusade is ever called, you can exceed the 1,000. And that's why Black Templars have like 6,000 guys, because they're on crusade.
Constantly.
Constant crusade.
Oh, goodness. So that is that. I do think, before we go on to M40, okay, do we have a shout out? I think we did get a shout out.
Oh, yes, we do. We do have a shout out. So recently I was on Etsy. Now, I do own a 3D printer. However, there were some times where an STL, you can't find it. Can't find it at all. I couldn't find one. I was trying to get a STL proxy for the Herald of Khorne on Blood Throne, or in 40K would be the Renmaster.
Well, what do you do when you can't find an STL?
Well, since I couldn't find one, I went on Etsy. I was looking around. I was like, let's see if anyone had. Well, happened to find one shop, Mad King Gaming on Etsy, owned by a guy named Matt Johnson. Great guy. I put in an order, and then I get a message from him, and he's like, hey, I'm subscribed to your guys' podcast. Love listening to you guys. Want to give you guys some freebies. Help you check it out. And I was like, oh, well, hell yeah, send them on. We'll give you a shout out on the next podcast. The miniatures that we got are awesome. The quality is outstanding when it comes to the
Very pointy,
details.
very spiky.
Yeah, the details are incredible. Whatever resin he's using is incredibly detailed. Awesome. Now, I will say that the resin is kind of brittle. Now, when you're shipping anything, you're always putting the hands.
I'll chalk it up to shipping for the most part.
You're trusting the U.S. Postal Service to handle your things nicely. Okay, so you will get something that may be broken just because shipping nature and stuff, but it's awesome. I have mine primed up. I've been getting my ass beat at work this week, so I didn't get a chance to paint it.
Yeah, I've been in the process of moving.
Hopefully, I will have a one painted up to share on the screen.
Yeah,
So
Groot's been moving.
Groot's
Been
Groot's been in the process of moving, so I got to look at the bag and I got to look at them, and they're really super detailed, and I can't wait to put them together and paint them. But that's where they're gonna be for
to
at
all
least the next
GW
couple
lawyers, we're talking about generic spacemen who wear armor.
generic plague warriors.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly. So
these
I had
work
to
great with Peace Mallet.
and well, they are. They're
400.
They're proxies. Okay, they're mainly used for one-page rules. If you play one-page rules, but if you need a proxy for 40K, it's not a.
They're one-page rules, sick army men.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a one-for-one proxy of anything that GW puts out, but it's a very excellent proxy. Go check him out on Etsy. It's Mad King Gaming, guy named Matt. Great guys. Once we get these actually things,
we'll put up the link in the page and all that shit.
Yeah, we'll put up a link in the description there.
If anybody wants to give us other stuff, we'll give you a shout out.
And
we can get bribed.
Great dude. So if you need a proxy,
we do enjoy being bribed.
We do. Bribes are great.
Yeah. If you need a proxy, you don't have a 3D printer, go check them out. Prices are freaking awesome for what you're getting in detail.
I guarantee you they're cheaper than Games Workshop.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that from me, but wink, wink.
It's like, have you bought the latest starter set or army force box, whatever the hell it is?
Yeah.
What's the new one that's coming out? The Imperial Agents one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're probably going to be spending like $150 for that. You spend
You mean
$150
the
bucks.
new Grey Knights?
Yeah. You spend $150 over at MadKing Gaming, you can get damn near half your army that you need. So go check him out on there. Great guy. On with the show then.
Where were we?
we're
Yes,
in
everything
40K
went
now.
wrong.
Yes.
So,
Guilliman did everything wrong.
so the Codex Astartes is implemented.
Yes.
Okay. And this was a very sad affair for all the Primarchs. I'm not going to get too far into it, but their legion, even after all the recruitment and everything else, the horrors of war usually left them with like very, very low amount of stuff. And if you had over 1,000 Marines, you split off into different chapters, right? So, of course, my boys, the Imperial Fist, you obviously had a very sect that worked well together, which was the Black Templars, or the Templar section of the Imperial Fist. So they went off and made their own chapter, the Black Templars, right? The Ultramarines, because they apparently procreate like rabbits, had the most of any by far, and also some of the most stable gene seed, by the way, like number 2 after Dark Angels, is they have the most successor chapters. If you find a random chapter in modern 40K, there's an 80% chance that is a Ultramarine successor.
Roll credits.
What are
You
the
want to save it for last, or do you want to?
I thought we were just going to do
Yeah,
this.
save it for last. No, fuck you.
were-
Save it for last.
You made it. You just made a really good spot for me to be
Y'all are
like.
the
And
ones
what
who
are
are
those? What are those successor chapters? You may ask.
I'll make a custom graphic. But something to know is that obviously, what a fun fact to think about, by the way, is not all loyalists stay loyalist. And this has been a problem the Imperium's had even after the Codex Astartes for the next 10,000 years, is that every once in a while, a loyalist chapter would go traitor. But war. Anyways, we'll go into that in a separate episode. But when you think about it, the traitors, we are like, oh yeah, word bearers, traitors, world eaters, traitors. You know, statistically, what, over 10,000 years, you know what statistically the highest number of traitors come from?
Ultramarines.
Ultramarines.
Fuck it.
Think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because they know what side is better. They're tired of the theoreticals and the practicals.
Yeah. Well, no, because they have the most divergent. Because remember, when I say Ultramarines
They're ready
and
to
Guilliman,
practically get blood for the theoretical blood god.
God damn it. Yes. Data sells for the Excel sheet.
Yes.
But also a reminder, Guilliman is not the Excel nerd. He's the think out of the box nerd. He's the guy who found route B when everybody's taking route A, right? And that shows in these successor chapters. Because, yeah, some successor chapters are like, oh, courage and honor, we are just Ultramarines in a different color. But you got some successor chapters which are really fucked up, man. I mean, really. Again, we'll have that little title card at the end. But they have the most divergent type chapters for successors. And as such, some of them are prone to chaos. So statistically, not including recruitment from already traitor forces, those who actually like turn traitor, number-wise, you're probably looking at Ultramarines being one of the like top. I'm just saying.
So what you're saying is the Ultramarines are not only the best loyalists, but they're also the best traitor.
Literally,
legions.
yes. Probably, yes.
Unironically, yes.
Reminder, the Red Crusaders, if I remember correctly, Ultramarine successor. They're technically unknown, but Ultramarine successor. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. So the more you know.
Huron Blackheart.
Now, briefly, before we do the time skip to M40, we have to talk about the scouring. So after the Horus Heresy, the Imperium's rebuilding, and this is whenever the Loyalist Primarchs, for the most part, get lost, or run away, or grab milk and cigarettes and never come back. Kind of depends.
Going to find a tree.
Yeah. In Guilliman's case, he goes around and finally hunts down Fulgrim. Okay. And unfortunately, during it, he teleports onto Fulgrim's ship, and he finds himself facing Fulgrim mano a mano. Because he just went ahead of his legion because he fucking hates his brother. Fair enough. But
yeah. He
eventually
thought he was so good.
you know, as theoretical, I cut your throat, practical, I don't succeed. But Fulgrim did cut his throat with a poison blade and left him on the verge of death.
Theoretically, I fuck you up. Practically, I become your bitch.
Yeah, Guilliman showed up
I
and
didn't
Fulgrim just
practically
transformed
think
into
this
Mike
through.
Tyson, gave him a 1-2 punch. Yeah. That being said, Fulgrim did cut his throat, everything else, and at that point, Ultramarines swarmed the chamber and they were firing on Fulgrim slaughtering them, but they realized Guilliman's down. So they changed the priority from killing Fulgrim to rescuing Guilliman. So they teleported him back to the ship and they proceeded to go and put him in a stasis pod. Guilliman was on the verge of death. He was dying. He essentially was dead. That's how close he was. At that point, they put him in stasis to where he doesn't time, age, or anything else, and they bring him back to Macragge, where he's then basically entombed and was essentially a giant, like, pantheon-type temple in Macragge, basically as a tourist center. So for the next 10,000 years, millions and billions, potentially trillions, of humans would take lifelong journeys to visit
5
Macragge.
crowns, see the avenging sun.
Unironically, yes.
The fucking tomb of the
unironically.
unknown Primarch.
God damn it. But
He became a tourist attraction. That's
he
insane.
did, yeah. I'm the same way because you have billions, trillions, whatever, of people who would take these pilgrimages, especially as the Imperium rejected the imperial truth and went to the imperial cult, worship of the emperor,
Right.
and they would view the Primarchs as demigods' sons, stuff like that. So they would spend their entire lives and their life fortunes taking trips to Macragge or to Terra to see.
Notice
like,
how Macragge sounds a lot like Mecca.
Yeah, yeah. Guilliman became the fucking... Guilliman became the moon rock at Mecca.
Father Guilliman. But so he literally became a tourist trap for 10,000 years.
They went from space Rome to space to space Saudi Arabia.
Actually, no. Because Mecca's in Jerusalem.
Is it in Jerusalem?
It is.
Fucking Lorgar. Anyways,
Yeah, look it up.
yeah.
That's the
Wait, is it?
the big fucking, I think the big moon rock thing that they
The
walk
big
around.
moon rock.
Yeah, the big thing that they walk around and they
Yeah, the
pray
thing
around.
that they circle pit around.
Yeah, that's if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's in
No,
Jerusalem.
it's in Saudi Arabia.
Is it?
You fucking liar.
No bullshit.
Yeah.
What? I thought it was in Israel.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
in,
they have,
it's in
um,
Makkah, Saudi
They
Arabia. Saudi
have,
Arabia.
what's called.
What the fuck is in?
They have the
The Wailing
simple-
Wall.
No, that's only for Jews. It's also like the Temple of the Rock or something like that. I want to say it's the temple.
That's where the Sermon of the Mount was on, right? The Sermon of the Mount.
The Temple of the
No,
Foreskin.
no. I think it was actually when Abraham supposedly was going to sacrifice his son Isaac, if I remember
Oh.
correctly. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I got
think-
those two confused. Never mind then.
We only know 40K. I don't fucking know.
It's either
Yeah.
Space Israel or Space Saudi Arabia. One
Space
of the two.
Israel is unironically Lorgar. Anyways. No, it actually is. That's not even me being edgy. It actually is. Anyways. But that being said,
Calth was an act of self-defense.
Little known fact: Kerr's got his screaming gallery idea from Lorgar's Wailing Wall.
oh god, God. Do I need to bring up the counter? Do I need to bring up the counter again? Oh. Now there is something of importance to note.
Aurelia Lorgar,
Aurelia Lorgar. I do.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Bring out the girls in Panzer Nazi.
In other news, fucking word bearers evicted from Macragge for clipping coins.
Oh, that can be. Oh, we have a new sticker we can do now. We can sticker out the girls in Panzer Nazi.
That's not even our art. We can't do that.
Sure, we can. Fuck them. We're not monetized.
How do I explain that? I got to DM the Deviant artist, be like, hey, I know you published this like 10 years ago. Can we just like
Just
take
make
this?
just
Can we
shit.
pay you $5? Can we
Fine,
send you a
shit. Post
t-shirt?
our own girls in Panzer
Yeah,
Nazi.
Creative Commons. Fuck this.
I'll get Brock to make a Nazi girl. Anyways,
Turn Asuka from fucking from Neon Genesis into a Nazi.
she's already halfway there. She's German.
Oh my god.
You seen the meme where it's like, let me see if I got the meme. It was really like Neon Genesis stuff like that, but it was like Biden was Shinji or Biden was Asuka, and it was like,
Have you
God,
seen
we
the
used
one?
it as,
Have
like,
you seen the one of Ray and Asuka? And she's like, where Asuka's like, "Ew, processed meat. I don't like that." And she's like, "This is an obelisk." She's like, "This is literally just meat from different pigs smashed together in this obelisk of ham."
I'm glad we do this podcast for fun, dude, because we're never going to make money off of this. What the shit?
Oh, shit.
Get in the robot, Kamala.
Get in the robot, Joe.
Or Biden will have to run again. Do it. But anyway, so there was one more event in 30K, which is interesting because it sets up the return of one of the biggest threats in M40, and that was the Pharaohs. The Pharaohs, the origin unknown was speculated upon. Another oopsie occurred, and it basically exploded. Okay, as the long and short of a very, very complex story. But during so, there's one specific part in that story where it mentions where an eye from the outer reaches of like the universe turns around and sees the light emitting from the galaxy, and then turns and starts swimming towards the void, towards it.
It's Cthulhu.
Close. Warhammer Cthulhu. But also not actually Cthulhu, but it sort of is Cthulhu. But it's the Tyranids. Surprise.
Ah.
So, Guilliman,
The great
not Guilliman, the
devourer.
Ultramarines, in absence of their father, long story short, one of the things that Guilliman made before he left was the Codex Astartes. And that is the full, hey, I've sorted on TED Talks on everything, therefore I'm an expert. And to be fair, it was an actual good book. A lot of shit's given to the Codex Astartes for a very good reason, but there is a reason it worked for 10,000 years because it was practical. It made sense. Okay? But the Ultramarines followed that book to a fucking letter. Everybody knows the Space Marine meme from the Space Marine video game, right? It's like, that's not according to the Codex Astartes. Fucking Leandros, right?
Yeah, fucking Leandros.
That shit, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how they became. Because Guilliman made the Codex Astartes to always be about, hey, here's the unorthodox route you can take to basically win the battle by thinking outside the box. But unintentionally, over 10,000 years, the Ultramarines treated that as the box. To where, hey, if Guilliman didn't specifically say this, and said, don't do this or do it this way, that means every other way is wrong. They stopped innovating, right? And that's what made people like Uriel Ventress so groundbreaking, especially during the time before Guilliman came back, was because he was that outside the box guy that Guilliman was initially like and he encouraged, but the Ultramarines were no longer like that. So the more you know. But
They became heroes like Cato
Oh,
Sicarius.
But long story short, the Tyranids ended up invading. Okay. And obviously now we all know what the Tyranids are, but back then it was a new thing for the Imperium, and they were known from Tyrannus, which was the first world that they were recorded basically devouring. The Ultramarines were almost wiped out to a man with the third Tyrannic War. Okay. Or I think it was the third. First, second. I get them all confused. There's too many.
I thought the second Tyrannic War was basically what just happened right now in the.
No, we're on 4.
We're on the fourth.
Yeah, we're on the 4th Tyrannic War. Yeah.
Oh,
Hasn't
fuck.
it been like a different Tyranid fleet each
Yeah.
time too?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
that's why. Because this one was High Fleet Leviathan. The
Oh, no,
last
Leviathan
one,
was also like the first Tyrannic War.
Well, this
It's
last
weird,
One, this
yeah.
last one was Leviathan as well. Well,
Yeah,
this
but that's
new
the
one, I
fourth
guess
one.
you say.
But
Yeah,
the
because
big
we've
deal
had
is-
what, Kronos and Kratos.
It was something like that, yeah.
Okay,
I
thought it was.
think they're
Kraken
actually
and
involved in all of
Kratos.
them, if I'm not mistaken.
I know there's
Yeah.
one that like just there's like what is it, Kratos, that just like specifically hunts demons.
It's one of those, yeah. They're actually like designated anti-chaos, which is cool. But long story short, to keep this simplified, just so we don't go too far into Tyranids, was that basically Ultramarines developed a grudge against Tyranids. Okay? And that's one of the biggest shit there. So if you want to know where stuff like Old One Eye came from, that's from the war in the realm of Ultramar. And then the Imperium kind of like wised up / continued to use the Tau as a buffer zone for the Tyranids. Because for the most part, the Tyranids would come from the Galactic East. Okay, the Ultima Segmentum. So the first major chapter they would run into is the Ultramarines, right? Along with a lot of their successors that were around that area. So that is of notable conflict, is that. Now obviously, in modern day, with 10th edition launching, there's the 4th Tyrannic War, and this is the first development also with the Ultramarines, saying, hey, not only are they coming from the east, and like a little bit from the other sides, everything else, but now suddenly we have a major hive fleet launching from the Galactic West,
Right.
which is fucking terrifying.
Huh.
Because
oh, shit, they were
if-
just coming from one direction.
Yeah,
now
it was
they're
one
coming
direction.
from both.
But if they're coming from both, what does that tell you about a 3-dimensional space? That you're probably surrounded.
It's possible.
Yeah. I'm saying if a battle begins and they start coming around your flank and the initial attack from the east is not letting up, odds are.
But then you have to
They're
think
significantly more on the
also,
way.
but then you have to think also because there's there's the theory that, the Tyranids aren't just, out devouring and, that they're actually like running from something. Imagine how big that has to be. That fucking field has to be that they've now ran around and gone, oh shit.
Well, no, I don't prescribe to that. I really don't like that theory or anything else that they're running from something. Simply along the lines of that Tyranids have shown actual maliciousness towards others. Okay. And the main example of that is back to Blood Angels with the devastation of Baal, because they didn't need to go and destroy Baal or try to.
Yeah.
They could have kept on going. It would have been like quote unquote economically more sustainable, especially if they're running from something, if they just kept on going. But instead, we still get that one sort of point of view from presumably like the hive mind point of view saying it hated, So running from someone is not, I'm not saying it's impossible, but also a lot of Tyranids are question
So
marks.
this was the third Tyrannic War.
This?
Yeah, the first one
no.
was High Fleet Behemoth.
Oh.
The second one was High Fleet Kraken, and then the third one was High Fleet Leviathan. Now there's a bunch of other minor Hive fleets.
Yeah, the minor like splinter
No, Fourth
fleets.
Tyrannic War. Yeah, M42.
Is it?
Yeah.
Second Tyrannic War was in M41, Leviathan 997 M41. Okay, so I guess we are in the so who's the High Fleet on this one? Was it Leviathan again?
Well, no, it was Behemoth's the first. Second one was Kraken. Third one is Leviathan, and yeah, fourth one's also Leviathan.
So they came back twice. So
Yeah.
it's
But now
Tyrannic
from
War.
the west, they're West Coast Leviathans. They're here for avocado toast in fucking Texas.
Oh god, it's Crip Leviathans.
It's the third Tyrannic War, and then Tyrannic War Part 3.5.
They came from Comptonia.
So that's one of the major engagements.
Tyrannus.
But I mainly wanted to like list these out here real quick because Ultramarines have been involved in a lot. Okay, and we'll get more into like the meta analysis at the end.
Yeah.
But they're everywhere. Everything's Ultramarines. We can't do a recap because we're just going over every single fucking goddamn piece of Warhammer lore.
I mean,
if we
yeah.
did a
Yeah,
Ultramarine
especially
recap.
at 40k because I mean
Yeah.
they've been involved in the Indomitus Crusade, the
Oh,
Plague
yes.
Wars, the fucking
Fucking
four
Pri-
tyrannic wars we've had.
Yeah. So here,
Pariah Nexus 2, isn't that fucking
yeah,
Ultramarines?
that's going to be
And
Well,
fucking
Pariah-
yes and no.
Necrons?
First
Yes
and
no.
first and second Pariah Nexus because whenever the Silent King woke
Okay.
up, he wasn't dealing with Guilliman.
Let me go on ahead and give a summary of everything real quick, and then whatever you guys want to delve into, we'll go with your like y'all's choice, and we'll delve further into it.
Well, we're just trying to get a fucking
Yeah, we're just
handle
trying to
on
get
I know,
how
yeah,
many
that's the
goddamn
summary.
things the Ultramarines are fucking
I know.
involved in.
I really think
The
like the
secret is
biggest
everything.
ones to hit the biggest ones we need to hit on and summarize is really Indomitus, Plague Wars, and Pariah Nexus maybe.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
covering the pre-Guilliman stuff, which was mainly that. Now we're going into modern. So that was the main engagement, was basically first through third Tyrannic War. Here's the deal. The big thing, Chaos came back, 13th Black Crusade, a whole bunch of shit happens, is all the Harlequin's fault, by the way, which we do need to know. You think I'm joking. Every single fucking goddamn piece of Warhammer lore,
Here we
every
go.
single sustainable event
is.
Here we
is
go.
traced back to the Harlequins. This is not me being schizo. I do not have a tinfoil hat on. You look at
Avalanche!
it. Everything in Warhammer 40k is because of the Harlequins. Every single plot important thing the Harlequins have done. I'm not fucking with you.
I can just see him and like his room just has a spider web of just like lines.
I'll make
of
it. I'll
books.
fucking make it.
fucking love
It's easy.
Step Bros Alex Jones moments when it comes to the fucking
To the
Harlequin.
Oh, it
Harlequin.
is because you know who resurrected Guilliman? The fucking Harlequins.
Paul?
No, it was the fucking Harlequins.
It was Belisarius.
No, because the
Paul and
Harlequins are the ones who
Brains.
prompted the fucking Yannari and the Yanid shit to go and basically make this fucking suit of armor to resurrect Guilliman.
I thought
And then
it was
Guilliman comes
Brain.
back. No, but who prompted Ukraine? It was the Harlequins because they had the plan. Yeah. I shit you not.
I didn't see no Harlequins.
God damn it. Oh,
We're just gonna gaslight him into thinking Harlequins don't exist.
no, Stepper. Harlequins were never a faction. I don't know what you're talking about.
Since
Yeah.
the first 10,000, Harlequins have never existed.
Everything is canon.
the Harlequins are putting stuff in the water to turn the McCraggians gay.
God damn. So, okay.
You don't understand. It was the Harlequins that resurrected Guilliman.
To summarize, because again, a lot of lore. To summarize, Guilliman comes back. Guilliman deals with an immediate fucking clusterfuck of basically Chaos Space Marines, and as soon as he wakes up, we talked about before about Guilliman not having his trial moment. He had his trial moment with Betrayal of Calth and the shit that followed afterwards, okay? This is him now living in hell. Unironically living in fucking hell, okay? Because he is basically alone. He still has not met the Lion, as of current lore, by the way. He has not met him. He isn't even aware, to our knowledge, that he exists.
And he doesn't know exactly how to handle this, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
Because he's
that's
doing
what
his
happens
best.
when you don't face trials and tribulations when you're younger.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've
Take
got to
that, Gen Z.
You've got to think you went from having like 20 brothers to now you're the only person there, and you have orcs, you have necrons, you have tyrannids that are running around, running amok. You have fucking chaos space
Yeah,
marines that have
and-
now torn the
And
galaxy
the only
in
brothers
two.
who see are the ones who are trying to kill you. Yeah.
And when your upbringing is so fucking easy, the way you had it and shit, you don't really, like feel any kind
Yeah,
of
and
face.
Okay, but
when you
his
get to your
innocence
own-
was lost at Betrayal of Calth. Like that moment, I like to say, like he literally had the innocence sucked out of him by space when he was ejected into the void. Yeah. And he just got replaced with the sheer fucking hatred, goddamn like Gen Z doomer type shit. Like no joke, actually if all the Primarchs respectively
Oh,
age like the
that's how you
Lion,
should-
he is going to be like the Gen Z of the Primarchs. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how
yeah.
you need to paint. That's how you need to paint your next fucking Guilliman. You need to paint Doomer Gilligan.
Doomer Guilliman.
Doomer Gilligan.
Yeah. But long story short, he
Doomer
wakes up.
Gilligan?
He deals with the immediate clusterfuck on McCrag, okay? Because 13th Black Crusade happened, Katie got destroyed, Chaos is going fucking crazy, the galaxy split in half. He wakes up, he's not even fucking woken up yet. Within the first half second, one of your boys attacks him.
Yeah, well,
No
you know.
hesitancy asked. Imagine being asleep for 10,000 years, you're finally fucking healed, you don't know what the fuck's going on. You turn around, you see a whole bunch of goddamn random people, some guys in like gray fucking armor running around looking like Grey Knights. Hey, was that a 30K thing, stuff like that? You gotta wonder a whole bunch of stuff. There's some random ass bitch with fucking wings floating out of her ass being like, oh, I'm a holy saint. Yes, yes, yes. You got Inquisitors now? He didn't know what the fuck was going on.
What the fuck
He
is an
didn't know what the
Inquisitor?
fuck's going on.
See, nobody updated
Oh, because
Adobe
wasn't
Acrobat.
because Greyfax was there.
yeah. So he woken up. Reminder, from M30. So Great Crusade, he wakes up. The first thing he sees, he's got Eldar fighting by his side. He's got Inquisitors. He's got Saint Celestine. He's got Grey Knights. He doesn't understand
And
any of this shit.
Belisarius Call.
He wakes up, he's on a pedestal being presumably he could assume that he was being stared at. He's basically on like a godlike plinth.
You
being
can still hear
stasis.
you can still hear the hurry, hurry, hurry. See the half dead Primarch. Five killed.
So imagine the clusterfuck, and he doesn't have time to fucking talk to anybody about anything because he's immediately in physical melee combat. After that, he has to go and deal with the actual defense of McCrag. And as soon as he comes to the realization of what the fuck's going on, he stabilizes McCrag against this invasion. He goes back, he prepares the Indomitus Crusade.
Is
okay?
this when they have the fucking the coronation of Guilliman?
Yes, actually, yes. He goes back all the way up to Terra. By the way, he gets kidnapped by Magnus, attempted to be killed by Magnus. Cypher shows up, and then Harlequins show up, and then next thing you know, he battles Magnus on the moon. He's like, well, that's fucking new, because he's never had to deal with he dealt with Fulgrim as a demon Primarch, but he never saw Magnus as a demon Primarch. He goes back there, he goes to Terra. Terra gets invaded by Khorne. He has assassination attempts. He has to go and basically, quote unquote, remove half the High Lords at the same time playing politics. And then he goes around, gets crowned the regent. He meets with the Emperor, who was like his only sanctum. Think about it. He like probably a couple years long journey doing this shit. He finally goes to the Emperor. He's like, oh, thank God. Finally, I can fucking talk with. Hey, Dad, how's it going? And he emerges. It's some fucking skeleton on a golden throne. I'm like, God damn, you did not see a dermatologist in the last 10,000 years, have you? And at this point, Guilliman has one of the most earth-shaking, just depressing shit in his life. So if you ever read the Plague Wars or anything else, you'll know and you catch that little glimpse of his quote-unquote conversation with the Emperor, okay?
Yeah. I
Now-
love Plague Wars for the simple fact that Nurgle just fucks
Dude.
with Guilliman so much.
Oh, yeah, it's straight up a pain in the ass, man. I feel bad for him just reading that. Now, the Emperor. This is something interesting about the Emperor, and I swear to so many tangents, we're not going to go into this, but we know how neurons connect everything, right? So, for example, if you have a bad experience with a wood clock, something happens, makeup's on, I don't care. A really bad experience with a wood clock, the next time you see a wood clock, you're like, oh. because your neurons are connecting bad experience, wooden clock. Okay, simple as. It seems like the Emperor is now unable to effectively communicate in any way aside from simple neuron connection. Okay? So whenever he sees Guilliman, the first thing that floods his mind, like his mind's being fucking sandpapered smooth. Okay?
He's becoming a smooth brain.
Yeah,
right?
it's becoming a smooth brain.
Oh, do I need to look up?
Yeah, look it up if you don't mind. Yeah, you can do the quote for this one. Yeah. All this stuff, and it shakes his fucking world. Because this is not the man he used to know. Nothing is like he used to know. And on top of this, this is an entire galaxy that he fucking hates because it goes against everything that he fought for, that he and his sons lived and died for. And now suddenly he basically views his sons and the Imperium as a walking dead corpse, making a mockery of what him and his father stood for. So trust me, he has his doomer moment. And now, but he goes around, and this also represents a tonal shift in 40k, where it goes from basically the fall of the Roman Empire, which was sort of the shift from the beginning to 7th edition, right? It's like, oh, the end of the world is now, right? The end of the world is nigh. Until suddenly, well, now Guilliman's back and sort of like raging against the dying of the light.
Okay.
Yeah.
It said he looked at the Emperor of Mankind and could not see. Too much, too bright, too powerful. The unreality of the being before him stunned him to the core. 100 different impressions, all false, all true, raced through his mind. He could not remember what his father had looked like before, and Rabute Guilliman forgot nothing. And then that thing, that terrible, awful thing upon the throne saw him. My son, it said. 13, it said. Lord of Ultramar. Savior. Hope. Failure. Disappointment. Liar. Thief. Betrayer. Guilliman. He heard all these at once. He did not hear them at all. The Emperor spoke and did not speak. The very idea of the words seemed ridiculous. The concept of them a grievous harm against the equilibrium of time and being. Rabute Guilliman. The raging tempest spoke his name, and it was violent. As the violence a dying sun rains upon its world. Guilliman, Guilliman, Guilliman.
Guilliman!
It goes through a lot more. Father, he ends up crying. Father, thoughts battered him. A son, not a son. A thing, a name, not a name. A number, a tool, a product. A grand plan in ruins, an ambition unrealized, information, too much information, course through Guilliman. Stars and galaxies, entire universes, races older than time, things too terrifying to be real, eroding his being like a storm in full spate, carves knife-edged gullies into Badlands. Please, Father, he begged. Father, not a father, thing, the mind said. Apotheosis, victory, defeat, choose, it said. Fate, future, past, renewal, despair, decay. And then finally his last words are, my last hope, my last tool, my last hope. A final drawing in on power, a thought expelled like a dying breath. Guilliman.
So it's interesting how he said apotheosis there. Because we know that the Emperor can't communicate with words, right? The most he can do right now is give like one-word answers or visions or something like that. But the fact that he said apotheosis right there, that's what leads me to believe that when he goes apotheosis and it says victory, death, choose, I'm thinking, right, he's trying to tell Guilliman right there, like, listen, for me to reach my apotheosis, like, I have to, and for you to win is I have to die.
I would disagree. I don't think that's necessarily incorrect or anything else. I'm just saying when this happens, I think it's more of him, because we're viewing, that's why I brought up the neurons, right? Because we saw the neurons. He looked at Guilliman, he said, Son, Tool, 13th Lord of McCrag. It's all the connections that we can see, that he is, quote unquote. All those are true. But then we also see my last hope, but also liar, betrayer, whatever the fuck else he said, stuff like that. Apotheosis, that could be, I mean, it can be interpreted so many ways, but I'm not sure if it's a dedicated plan or him even trying to communicate something. I think it's more of just his observation, and that's all he can do.
I mean, I can bet that he's probably trying to fill Guilliman in on what all happened after Guilliman got bitch slapped by Fulgrim. But it's interesting how he says the word apotheosis, because usually with an apotheosis, it's, I'm going to look it up here. Basically, essentially it means to, to deify.
Yeah.
Making divine is the glorification of a subject to divine levels, and commonly the treatment of a human being, any other living thing, or an abstract idea in the likeness of a deity. So unless he's trying to say that Guilliman's going to reach his apotheosis by going out and doing what the hell he needs to do to win the Imperium back, like, I don't know. There's a lot to think, but the fact that he says apotheosis means like I'm really thinking like he needs to die so he can reach the next level, become a god, and be able to fight the other chaos gods.
Unless it's a warning to Guilliman, because as we kind of know, the Golden Throne is failing.
Yeah.
Right.
From what
they have to throw 1,000 psychers a day to keep the Emperor alive, which means...
But even still, didn't they say something that's not even working anymore?
Yeah, so the Emperor, the Golden Throne. Now, granted, the timeline's it's all fucky wucky. But that being said, quote unquote, during 8th edition, like when the 8th edition codex came out, there was an entire segment about the Golden Throne, and the only parts you could basically make out was that Golden Throne failing, yada yada. And there's even a previous lore mention in a book or codex, I forget where, somebody can put that in the comments, where basically they mentioned the Golden Throne is failing. And they actually went and tried to get some Drukhari to basically come on in and fix it, but the Drukhari just didn't know how to fix it. He just lied so we can get in, and subsequently killed, to see the greatest pain machine ever made, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to think, because in Into the Death, I did read some spoilers. Fucking the Emperor almost becomes the 5th Chaos God,
and he rejects it. Yeah.
So to me, it almost may be a warning of what could happen if. Almost like a warning of the Emperor saying that, if I die, this could potentially be what happens. I could become a 5th Chaos God, and shit could potentially get fucking worse for you.
Yeah. So how would he become a Chaos God, though? If he rejected it, which it means that he could potentially become a god, just not a chaos god.
Because he's at the point now where think of it as Mortarion. Think of it at Mortarion's point. Mortarion was put at the point where he had no choice. He was literally Mortarion was literally at a point where he didn't know if you see spoilers for the Buried Dagger, what he does is Nurgle basically implants himself as he's standing in front of Mortarion's standing before Nurgle, but Nurgle has it as he's standing before the Emperor, and he's back on Barbarous during his meeting of meeting the Emperor, and he's basically going through his meeting of the Emperor saying, I want you will serve me, and it's going back and forth, and finally he tells him, I'll serve you, and he's getting fucking racked with plagues and everything's eating at him, but finally he realizes like he has no other choice. The only thing he can do is submit. So, I mean, if the Emperor's fucking a billion times past what Mortarion was for submission.
Here's my assumption, and granted assumption. And when I talked to you earlier before the episode about like the scenes about like the cult activity, this is what this was leading up to, so to say, is because obviously the Emperor was against religion and he was against becoming a god, as seen, like you said before, Into the Death. He flat out rejects it. He was very tempted. He was about to become one. And then eventually he's just like, no, I can't do this. Even if it would guarantee me victory, even if I go before Horus and die, I can't do this. Because at that point, I'm giving the Chaos Gods their victory. And the Chaos Gods themselves said, hey, if he goes to the 5th Chaos God, that's him giving him to basically temptation. And he's no longer the Emperor. He's no longer a force for good. Let's put it that way. Okay. Yeah. With good being, in this case, humanity. So that being said, but during that time, that entire shield that kept out psychic activity, but there was still psychic activity going on, but it was in the lieu of quote-unquote miracles. And that was the only way warped entities, good or bad, could get into the shield. Now, this seems, and this is how they're operating, is that when we have stuff that's quote unquote imperial demons, quote unquote, I'll refer to them as angels because we got the entire good versus bad thing going on.
Right.
Everything else like Celestine, Legion of the Damned, they operate kind of similar to the warp, but they seem to be almost like a different type, right? You go to the same soda machine, but it's a different soda, right? So if I had to guess, this is my guess, my speculation, right? And there's a million and one ways we could be here all like next fucking 2 weeks and not get through all the theories about like what could be happening and everything else, is that the Emperor rejected it and the Emperor's plan initially failed for the Great Crusade. Over the last 10,000 years, he's being elevated to godhood, the apotheosis, right? Whether he wants to or not, especially with the opening of the Great Rift and his psychic power basically being supercharged, he's being elevated to godhood, as seen through Celestine, Legion of the Damned, etc., etc. Yeah. So that may be his new plan of him saying, I lost, but there's a way I can still win by doing this. Yeah, or perhaps it could be happening without even his permission, right?
And that's what I'm getting at is he knows there's no way he doesn't know that people are worshiping him like a god.
Yeah.
And the only way to get godhood is if you got enough people to worship you as a god.
But here's the big question.
And Malkador even said that the Emperor knew about the cult, you know, as far as the Siege of Terra. He said it was just, he believed it was something, it wasn't anything that was worth him dealing with because it would probably just be something that would fizzle out.
Right.
But here's the question. Is the Emperor God, is the God Emperor the same person as the Emperor?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think after, especially after, you know, being dealt the wounds that you were dealt and then being put back on the Golden Throne and everything, you're definitely, I don't think there's any way that he's the same person.
Yeah.
I would, he probably is the same person in some respects, but I think he would, everything he knew before, or at least was so sure about before, is now being,
because you even saw it. There was one, it was like a Salamander's book or something where they found like a signal or something, and they went and they actually found like a battle brother from like Istvan 3 or something, like an old abandoned fucking space marine, and he was just sitting on his throne, and like shit had fucking, his armor had corroded so much, his power pack wasn't working, he was on the verge of death, but like he was literally, I think it's almost to the point, kind of like how you see Loken, or how you see like these space marines that are left by themselves for, you know, how many ever 1,000 years, to where their mind just fucking deteriorates past the point of really any kind of recognition of that person.
Yeah. And meanwhile, he's being sandblasted with psychic power and the warp and all this crazy ass bullshit.
Yeah, trying to hold that back, trying to hold back all the powers of the warp for fucking 10,000 years and be the beacon for everybody.
Yeah. So, bring this back in because there's so many good tangents. Goddamn.
Yeah.
But Guilliman is an alien in this universe that he basically used to rule, and he is now ruling again. Now, he goes on and he immediately goes around and he doesn't have time to mope. He immediately goes and starts assigning people to what they do and launches the Indomitus Crusade in record time. And the Indomitus Crusade was, hey, we are losing Imperial worlds, and we potentially could see the collapse of the Imperium. So he launches basically a new Great Crusade, which also lasts basically like 200 years around the same time frame as the Great Crusade, and achieves technically even more than the initial Great Crusade. I've heard that from one of the books. I forget which one, so I could be wrong.
I don't say that. I've heard that from other people. He's fantastic.
Pretty much. I'm just saying, take that.
I would never say this.
I would never say this.
Yeah,
but
take
some
that
people
with a grain of
say
salt.
the greatest Primarch.
Yes. So, long story short, it goes on from there, and he does that. And eventually, these torchbearer fleets would meet up either with existing chapters or found new ones with the new Primaris Marines, because he apparently commissioned Call before he died, and technically died 5 Fulgrim M30K to make the Primaris Marines. Took 2,000 years. And now he's like, oh, MacGuffin, secret weapon, yada, yada. Yeah, there's no way to frame that as from, that was kind of out of fucking nowhere, MacGuffin-esque bullshit, quite frankly. I like the Primaris Marines.
There was something somewhere about fucking, what was it, Call? Call received like some kind of vision from the Emperor about completing, helping complete his great work. And
no, it was fully, Primaris Marines were fully commissioned by Guilliman.
Oh,
now, he could have also received some from the Emperor. I don't know, truth be told, but Yeah, it was a full Guilliman thing, but that's also technically part of the fucking reason that's given is because Guilliman wasn't there to really like rubber stamp and say, okay, release them. So they've just been mostly sitting in stasis for 10,000 years. When
And that's why
everything's been
everybody-
happening,
and
they've
that's
just
why
been sitting
everybody
on them.
hates Primaris Marines.
Yeah, there's a decent reason why. Oh, anyways, but he goes around. Eventually, the Indomitus Crusade ends as technically the devastation of Baal happens. The timeline gets a bit fucked because they actually did a retcon. And believe it or not, with this retcon, they straight up said, this is a retcon. And they explained what they were doing. And they actually re-released the Plague War books because they said, hey, we're doing this. They didn't just go on Twitter and say everything's fucking canon. They actually did an actual retcon.
And that leads to what I've said before, is anytime that GW retcons anything in the universe, it's to either make the story more concise or to add to the story and flesh everything a little bit better.
Yeah, you can't do this little...
Yeah.
Again, not to go on the tangent, but you can't do the entire Fim Stodes fucking retcon whenever you've actually done retcons in the past and done it in an entirely separate good way.
Yeah, that's like you can't break the rules of the universe that you yourself have made.
Well, I mean, it's just
Exactly.
become laziness. I mean, look at look at like the model for Cotias versus like
that fucking model, bro.
You fucking that is
look at the model,
You
but
are
look at the
hating-
model for Cotias
No, I'm with
versus
them.
the
No, I mean, I
fucking
don't like it
versus the character model, the character canoness that they made for the book or whatever for the what was it?
Library series?
The Sisters of Battle book with the fucking the Sister
Canoness
of
or
Battle that
whatever.
looks cool as fuck.
yeah, and they gave her no rules or nothing. It's just like, here's a fucking awesome model.
Yeah, here's
but-
this awesome model that it'll make a good showpiece on your wall or on your shelf.
but
you
here's-
can't
here's-
fucking use it.
Here's Kodiaz, who looks like an Imperial Fist Votan.
No, he looks like he's wearing a golden pull-up diaper.
Yeah,
That's what he looks like.
He's like a custodes who couldn't be.
The fucking
Yeah. Anyways, back on topic.
Yeah.
So,
we put Stormcast Eternals in your Inquisitors.
God damn it, not again. But he goes on, and he finally meets up with apparently Dante at the very end of that, and he brings them Primaris, and he also appoints Dante as commander of Imperium Nihilus, which is the
Just
northern
let
half
me
of the galaxy.
die.
Yeah, just let me fucking die. Yeah, go see the Blood Angel episode if you haven't. Great episode. But at that point, one of the biggest things is he's almost fucking relieved. You could almost within context with his meeting with Dante, obviously from Dante's point of view, Dante's gonna overwhelmed. Holy shit, it's fucking Guilliman. What the fuck? But at the same time, it's almost comical if you think about it. The way that Guilliman expresses himself to Dante. Because this is the Primarch Guilliman equivalent of him getting on his hands and knees and fucking crying and saying, thank God, somebody who actually, I know what the fuck you're doing and what you're about. You're not goddamn insane.
Oh,
So-
thank God you're not the Space Wolves and attacking the Inquisition, whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, you're good. But yeah, it's just the entire thing of if a Primarch comes up to you, especially Guilliman, who, reminder, he's the diplomat, right? He's not going to kiss ass or brown nose for the
Right.
most part, all that stuff. He's very much, I give, you give, we meet in the middle. Let's do that shit. Him walking up to Dante and just saying, you don't bow to me, I should bow to you.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Like, I can never repay what you have given to us.
Yep. Exactly. Fucking wild. Also, weird to think that Dante's been alive technically longer than Guilliman. Not in an alive sense, but in an alive and active sense. Because Guilliman was 200 years Great Crusade and then Indomitus. Dante's been alive for 1,500 years, I believe.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so technically Guilliman is the Gen Z compared to fucking Dante.
Dante's the boomer.
And Dante's the boomer. He's you may be 10,000 years younger, 9,000 years younger than me, but also you're 1,000 years older than me. So have fun. But after that, God, there's so much for the Ultramarines. Fuck this episode. But going on, that's whenever he gets the alert that the Death Guard, led by Mortarion, have invaded the realm of Ultramar. At that point, he goes back to Ultramar and he deals with that shit.
We can kind of quick clip these because we've
I
we've
agree.
already mentioned the Plague Wars a little bit.
Yeah, he goes to the Plague Wars, he deals with the Death Guard, he meets with Mortarion. There's a great clip of basically his interaction. I'll do the same shit I did for the World Eater episode. I'm going to put that timestamp right here.
Last, my brother. You make it sound as if you've brought me to heel and will beat me in combat. After 10,000 years, you remain pompous. Look about you. I have you. I have won.
You have not won yet.
If this is not a victory, then I should probably consult one of your tedious manuals to better acquaint myself with the meaning of the term. Vava gave you his blade, I see. Or did you take it from his dead knee? I suppose it matters not. You will not wield it against me.
Fight me, you coward!
Do you think I would stoop so low as to fight you, my brother? Look at me! You are so far beneath me. I am mightier than you could ever be. Why would I waste my strength on crushing an insect like you?
Instead, you save your wickedness for my people, who cannot fight back at all! How noble of you.
Wickedness? Is that what you see? I bring them salvation from the hell our father created. I bring them the joy of endless rebirth. I bring them life.
You cast yourself as a warlord prophet, but you are a slave. I pity you, brother. You have deceived yourself.
It is you who is the slave. The slave of our uncaring father, who made us do his bidding. You who trod the path he laid out for you without question. Sure that the lies he told were the truth. Too stupid and trusting to question them for yourself. You never saw what he did to me. The first time I met him, he stole from me my life's struggle. It was nothing to him. A bump in his smooth road to godhood. He who took what I had worked and suffered for, and he did not care. He called himself the Emperor. What kind of being has the presumption to claim such a title? Who takes and takes the affections of his son and gives so little in return? He would not even deign to tell us his name. I tried his way. I should never have compromised my own principles. But I did. I was a champion of common people. I abandoned them for a galactic despot. Now, I serve the people again.
If I am a puppet of an uncaring master, then what are you? A being who wallows in warp power while crying hatred for the witch. A plaything for corruption and disease. You blustered long and hard against psychic powers and claimed total fearlessness and indomitability none could match. And yet, when faced with death, the ultimate challenge, you failed.
You do not know what you speak of. You do not know what it was like. I was shown the depths of suffering of a kind you could never understand. And as death beckoned, I was given the power to withstand it.
I know no suffering. I saw my brothers, many of whom I loved, all of whom I respected, turn their backs upon our Creator and plunge the galaxy into war. I saw humanity reach for one golden moment of peace, brush it with its fingers, and then I saw you and the others spit upon it and tear it away. I died at the hands of my kin. I awoke to a galaxy so far from the glorious enlightenment of the Emperor, it resembles the Catheric hell. You turned your back on all you claimed to stand for, cravenly, without a second thought. Where was my brother, who could weather any storm, whose body shrugged off poison, who would never, ever give in? What happened to him? The Mortarion of old would never have allowed this. He would have died with honor. You must have seen, as your warriors were transformed into these hulking monsters, what awaited you should you say yes to salvation. You who called yourself the strongest of us. The redoubtable, the master of any pain or sorrow. How hollow these words seem to me now. I at least know what I am. I look at myself, and though I perceive many failures, I know with unshakable certainty that I perform the duty I was created for. That I fight for the preservation of mankind.
And you do not fight for the Emperor?
I fight for what he believed in.
An advocate's quibbling. You fight for yourself.
I remain a champion of humanity, whereas you are the lackey of evil.
Am I? Then tell me, Rabute, if our father was so good, look me in the eye and tell me he loved us all as any father should love his sons. You know, don't you, Rabute? You've seen it. I knew something was different about you. You spoke of him on Terra. Tell me, what did he say? Did he plead to be released? Did he beg you to be set free from his golden throne? Oh, my brother, it cannot be. Did he say nothing? Is our father dead? Of course he isn't. Is he? Not in any real sense. Beings like him are beyond mortality. You are so misguided. He sought godhood, and in a way, he has what he wanted. He is a corpse god, a lord of death, more terrible and vile than my adopted grandfather, who offers those who follow him the gift of endless renewal. You look at this land and see only ruination. It is a shame for you that Nurgle's potential is invisible. Where you see destruction, I see but one phase in a cycle of death, rebirth, fecundity, and decay. It is glorious, colorful, vital. So much more than our father's pale lies. All secrets might be known within the warp. It is timeless and eternal. Everything that happens here is reflected there endlessly. Every moment can be accessed, every lie heard, every broken promise relived. I have been deep within, far from Nurgle's garden, into realms where secrets flock like corpse flies. I found many interesting things there. Do you know why he made us? Do you think it was for affection? I think once I've crippled you, and you lie blind and useless in an iron cage, begging to die, I might tell you. And then your fine words here will burn in your mouth. But that is yet to come. Legs first, I think. You will not be needing those at all.
Hope you enjoyed that clip. Fucking fantastic. And also, this goes back to the idea of we're talking about, hey, Primarchs and their struggles, they kind of make them. And we'll talk more about that in the later part. But going on, he does that. He wins. The Emperor actually possesses Guilliman and straight up revives him. Guilliman was full-on dead for a second time. Emperor brought him back, said, "You're not done, bucko. Get the fuck back up here."
Hey,
But-
you're finally awake.
And before we go on to also what happened in the Plague War, we gotta just very briefly talk about other stuff. Fourth Tyrannic War happened, as we already discussed. So West, he's busy with that, but also he's busy heading off to the Pariah Nexus. What basically, because the Necrons are encroaching, is a whole big shit, potentially showed up between him and the Silent King. While that also happened, between Imperium Sanctum and Imperium Nihilus, the Imperial South, Imperial North divided by the Cicatrix Maledictum, there's a small ramp called the Nachman Gauntlet, with the homeworld of Vigilus. And long story short, Abaddon was trying to take it. Abaddon technically won, but also the Imperium technically finding a way to kind of cross the gap is really fucking weird. During that time, the chapter master of Marnius Calgar was supposedly died at the hands of Abaddon. But turns out he was just Monty Python's Black Knight, where he just lost his limbs, and then they just did sprinkle some Primaris dust over him. He got a new model. He's now Primaris. And then he shows up and it's like, the rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. And it's like a running thing to where everybody thinks that fucking Calgar's dead, and then Calgar's like sitting on his fucking throne on my crag, be like, I'm not dead. Stop telling everybody I'm dead. Yeah, so that's been a thing. So that's what they're up to. God, was that enough?
I think it was enough.
Okay.
Corn better hurry up so we can finish out this episode.
I'm going to start talking. Yeah, we're finishing this out. One last thing I want to talk about. This is the main fucking thing. Is the future for Guilliman is fucking bleak. Because there is a bomb waiting that has not gone off yet. The main deal is two things. First off, that during the Plague War and also the Indomitus Crusade, he appointed somebody to basically be his personal preacher / pastor, so to say. Okay? He does not believe in the imperial truth at all. He fucking hates it, but he's walking a fine line. But there is genuinely borderline a civil war. The ecclesiarchy knows and has heard him say, I'm not a demigod, the emperor's not a god, and they don't fucking like that. So a lot of people in the Imperium want to kill Guilliman, actually, because also a lot of people in the Imperium, specifically like the old High Lord, stuff like that, they view the Primarchs as responsible for the situation they're in, right? They're like, well, 10,000 years ago, the Primarchs fucked it up, or this wouldn't have happened. We could have been in a much better place, yada, yada, yada. They're not wrong, but...
They're also not really right.
Exactly, yeah. So, long story short, the Imperium's in a really fragile place. And the Ecclesiarch and everybody else is waiting, just waiting, as made clear in the Plague Wars books, waiting for a reason to attempt to remove Guilliman. If they think they can get away with it, they fucking will. At the end of the book, two things are revealed. The first off, before the pastor dies, because he dies at the end of the Plague Wars, he reveals to Guilliman that the Emperor is about to leave the Golden Throne. He's about to leave it. Because with the entire psychic power, 10,000 years of worship, he's almost healed. He's about to come back.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He's about to come off the Golden Throne, but the big question is, what comes off the Golden Throne? Is that going to be the Emperor or the God Emperor?
Ooh.
And what will he do?
Is it going to be the Emperor, or is it going to be the same thing that's firing off fucking...
Exactly. Yep. The second thing, and that's an entire video in itself, but the second thing was also that Nurgle left a little tidbit for one of the remembrancers that Guilliman attempted to bring back. And that, during the invasion, he found his way into basically the giant forbidden section of the Macraggian library, led there by an agent of Nurgle. And he ended up finding a book about Imperium Secundus.
Because of course Guilliman would have the records for everything.
Yeah, everything that happened, he kept the fucking receipts for that shit. And he just hid it in the library. And for 10,000 years, only the most trusted captains, librarians, everybody else could go in there and see what the fuck happened. But now that information is out there, and he and the Remembrancer has full intent upon spreading this information. Meaning, for people are already just salivating to go and take Guilliman out. And now they know about Imperium Secundus. And what looks even worse for him, the only returned Primarchs are Guilliman and the Lion, who was the general for Imperium Secundus. So they have all the excuse they need. They say, hey, the guy who ran this territory, and in their point of view will probably say betrayed the Imperium, and the guy he made his fucking general, his warlord, his Horus, are back. They can do whatever the fuck they want once they know that happened.
All it would take is some fucked up way for Sanguinius to come back.
Oh yeah, Sanguinius comes back. Well, Sanguinius is so perfect. He come back, the entire situation would be over.
We forgot about everything we were mad about.
He's got feathers. So long story short, to summarize, GW is doing too fucking much with Guilliman, not only because he's got too much on his plate, but because generally there's too many stories. He's with the Tyrannic War, dealing with that. He's dealing with Pride Nexus. He's having to deal with Abaddon and the Nockma Gauntlet. He's having to go deal with this bombshell. He hasn't met the Lion yet. And the Ultramarines are the poster challenge for every fucking conflict, and they're everywhere.
This is why we need the Space Wolves back.
Fair enough. So that's
No,
why I
because
think
that would cause even more fucking shit. Because Lehman Russ would come back, they would find out the thing about fucking Imperium Secundus, and he'd be like, "I'm not fucking up again."
yes,
And then end up fucking up again.
pretty much, yeah. Well, Russ would be a good ally. Russ is probably one of the best people that could come back. Not gonna lie. Though he would understand about the Lion on side.
Haven't seen you in 10,000 years. Time to punch you in the face.
They fucking would. They'll do it. To summarize, I like Guilliman in the sense that, hey, yeah, he hasn't gone through the struggles and strife everybody else, but then his main story is in M41. Because he's waking up to a galaxy that, in his own words, it would have been better to burn in the fire of Horus's ambition than to be where it's at today.
Yeah.
And he is struggling almost by himself, at least for right now, until the Lion gets involved and potentially somebody else, future Primarchs. He's struggling by himself to hold this all together, and he is in his own personal purgatory. But the question is, will he ever find peace? So, have I changed y'all's opinions on at least Guilliman to some degree?
I mean, not in particularly, but I mean, I've always kind of understood Guilliman as the struggle. He's essentially the struggle of the human endurance or whatever.
Yes. The indomitable human spirit. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with Groot on that. I mean, not really. I don't really care for Guilliman much. I really do think he's like a real Mary Sue. However, I can understand he's basically the only Primarch right now who's any kind of semblance of what Big E had intended for the rest of humanity and stuff. I get it. He's got some big shoes to fill. At least until one of his fucking brothers comes back to see him, because the Lion came back, but apparently they still haven't seen each other. Which
Dante
because
has.
he's in the Ultima. He's in some Segmentum Ultima, and then fucking Lion's right now in Segmentum Nihilus, fucking going ham on shit.
But that's what I don't get is, why wouldn't you, if you just came back, like someone would have had to have told him, like, hey, Guilliman's up too, right? Like,
Have you seen the meme of Segmentum Ultima, and it's just Guilliman like sitting on a throne all pomp and proper, and then it's fucking Segmentum Nihilus, and it's fucking the Lion, but he's like bare chested, got tattoos on himself, and he's wearing the knuckled boxing gloves, beating the shit out of things.
Unironically, and that's probably why they haven't met, because Segmentum. The south part and the north part I've not met, because the entire Cicatrix Maledictum is basically just cut them off. So hopefully they'll find each other. It'll be a cool thing to see, but we'll find out. But I'll take it. I'll take it. I just want the opinion of Guilliman to kind of shift from Microsoft Excel nerd to the guy who thinks outside the box.
Oh, he's always going to be Microsoft Excel nerd.
I mean, that's fine. He's not going to be the accusations, but he's
always
going
to be the meme.
Yeah,
Sergeant
spreadsheet. Yeah, he's not.
He's more than that. And I think his Legion deserves more than that. He's better than that. He's a genuinely good character. And he will never... It's okay if he's not your favorite. He's not my favorite either. My favorite's Yellow. But he deserves some respect, and is not just a one-note character.
Like I said,
he's got depth.
When it comes to Guilliman and the Ultramarines, my biggest problem with them is not technically with them. It's with how they're written.
Fair.
If they were written on the same level as some of the other legions...
Yeah.
Or as most of the other legions, where there wasn't like an obvious favoritism, I think it'd be more respectable. But GW, I get it, they're the poster boys, but come on, like, they're not the only thing that defines your, like, you ask anybody about Games Workshop, they're going to tell you Space Marines, you tell them to name one, they're probably not going to name Ultramarines.
Yeah.
They're probably going to name, like Blood Angels or fucking Space Wolves, something.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to Ultramarines, everybody's just like, eh.
Mm.
So that's my biggest thing. Is just
either that or they run to it because they think that's the only thing they can play.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do this. In terms of like codexes, war fronts, everything else, and then being goddamn fucking everywhere, cringe. Okay? In terms of like when they get actual stories and actual characters and they can do stuff, we're looking at someone that's respectable.
Yeah.
Like, if they were... Okay, so
Not perfect, but
Yeah.
respectable.
If they were to actually lose a battle that they're supposed to lose, it would be more respectable in that.
Fair enough.
Like, granted,
Fair enough.
okay, so they had the Battle of Escador and they got beat by the fucking Alpha Legion there, but that was not an actual Horus Heresy book. It was in the Index Astartes Volume 4, I believe, which is like a compendium of a bunch of other short stories.
They can
It's
only
like-
lose in the subnotes.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. They only lose in
It's
the
one of those
footnotes.
where even a loss for them feels like a win to
Yeah.
some degree.
True on that.
You know, and that's kind of the thing that annoys me the most about them. It's like, you know, you have no problem fucking showing or describing how the Imperial Fists are getting their fucking asses handed to them in the Iron Cage, right?
Yeah, true.
Or have no problem with.
He said, that's a matter of perspective.
Well, no, it's true. It did happen.
I mean,
it did happen.
it was in an actual book.
It was, yeah.
You know, it wasn't in like, a fucking a codex.
Actually, Iron Cage wasn't in the book.
Huh?
It's never been in a book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
no,
wasn't
it's
in
weird. It's weird. Yeah.
I thought it was part
No.
of. No?
No book's been written about the Iron Cage. It's only been mentioned in codexes, lores, and stuff like that. Yeah.
I thought it was in an actual book.
Nope.
Okay, well that defeats my.
I know it's
example,
weird.
but-
I had the same like
It
mind
said that
fuck moment.
defeats
Yeah.
my argument.
well, that defeats my.
No, but
my
that is true.
example,
That's true
but-
about what
So
happened.
we're,
Yeah.
are we ready for these?
Oh God.
Are we really
How about
doing
this?
that?
We're gonna play a game. I already go to the editing of this. I'm gonna take a piss. We're gonna see what can happen. You with the successors or me pissing. Okay.
Do you want me to wait until you get out the door?
Yeah. Give me like a countdown.
All right. 5,
Wait.
4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we have the Angels of Fury, the Angels Revenant, the Aquilan Brotherhood, the Aurora Chapter, the Avenging Sons, the Black Consuls, the Brazen Consuls, the Castellans of the Rift, the Crimson Consuls, the Dark Sons, the Doom Eagles, the Doom Legion, the Eagle Warriors, the Emperor Spears, the Fire Angels, the Firehawks, the Fulminators, the Genesis Chapter, the Hawk Lords, conflicting sources, the Helian Legion, the Heralds of Ultramar, the Howling Griffins, Imperious Reavers, the Inceptors, the Iron Hawks, the Iron Hands, the Iron Hounds, not Iron Hands, Iron Snakes, the Knights Cerulean, the Libators, the Marines Errant, the Marines Mordant, the Mortificators, Nemesis, Nova Marines, Obsidian Glaives, Obsidian Jaguars, Patriarchs of Olixis, down with the Patriarchy, the Praetors of Orpheus, the Rainbow Warriors.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they have the Rainbow Warriors. So the first openly Pride chapter of
God.
the Size of the Emperor, the Silver Eagles, the Silver Skulls, the Silver Templars, the Sons of Guilliman, the Sons of Aurora, or the Sons of Aurar, the Tome Keepers, the Vindicators, the Void Tridents, and the White Consuls. Ha! I beat him.
I think Step Bro's taking this long on purpose.
Probably.
Either that or he's got prostate cancer.
Oh nope! I hear the belt jingling. He's coming. Oh, there he is. You lost. Damn it.
So, an interesting,
Well, in that case, you didn't list up all the successors.
a very interesting successor chapter that I love, that I ascribe to the lore, is the Firehawks. How it's believed that they could actually be the Legion of the Damned, and the whole lore with the Legion of the Damned is fucking awesome as shit. But I do personally believe that that Legion is the Firehawks.
Do you want to go through the funnier list?
Oh yeah.
It's a
All
fun
right.
list.
Yeah, the list of the list of Rabute Gilliman's fucking nicknames.
Okay. Let's.
Last list, and then we'll go.
Yeah. This is a very extensive one. It was a compilation of the internet's greatest names. So we have Bobby G-String, Robu, Robot Gridman, Robbity Gobbity, Rowboat Girly Man, Robust Girly Man, Roman Gorilla Man, Raw Butt Girly Man, Robo Butt Gigatan, Robo Bean Counter, Rampant Gully Tan, Roaring Gulag Man, Robot Giggly Tan, Raw Rigged Ginger Fan, Robot Gulliver, Robot Git, Robot Clint, Robot Cunt, Roberto Gilligan, Roberto Guillermito, Robust Gilligan, Robert Gillysuit, Reboot Gigabyte, Robert Gullible, Robert Ghoulman, Roberto Guile, or Guile, I don't know how to pronounce that thing, Roboot Girly Man, Robot Gorilla Man, Raw Dog Gorilla Man, Robooty Guillotine, Ruby Boob Gooby Tube. What the fuck? Ruby Boob Gooby Tube. Yes. Robust Gigolo Man, Ripple Butt Giggle Man, Raw Nut Jelly Man, Roman Gogillian, Rusty the Gullible, R. Guilliman Esquire. Oh fuck. I'm not even sure how I'm gonna spin that. Robali Bobali Galabli Wibali Man?
You're just making it worse at this point.
Skibbity Bootay Girly Man.
Row your boat gently down the streamly man. Roblox Gully Bully Man, Rubber Tree Girly Man, Robo Ute Gilla Man, Robot Grilly Man, Rowboat Grilly Man, sorry, Romanov Enderman, Reboot Gilligan, Bobby McGillicuddy, Bobby G, Big Bobby G, Daddy G, Robute Gilly Blastoma.
Watching your
Am I
face.
entitled to financial compensation?
Really gay. Rob Butthole.
Oh my god, Robotic Guilliman is just really gay.
Raw Booty Girly Man. G-Man. Rabbit Guilty Man. Benedict Cumberbatch.
I'm all canal. This is
Guillermo del Toro. Rumble Buff and Counterpunch. Rodent Guillotine. Fucking Julius Caesar Augustus and Spess. Big Blue Daddy, Papa Ultra Smurf, Grandpa Smurf, Rob, T.S. Grockus Getting the Van. The Blueser, the Blue One, Ward's Ever Chosen Robart, Your Spiritual Liege, Big Blue Bob, Big Blue Bastardly Bob, Big Blue Mary Sue, Boss of the Bastard Blueberries, Gary Sue, Marty Stew, Captain Imperium, the Real Fake Emperor, the Impersonator, Emperor 2 Electric Boogaloo, the Emperor 2 Electric Bluegaloo, Ultraman, and the Great Violator due to his creation of the Primarch Marines, and the Grand Blueberry. Oh, and then the best one of all, that you had mentioned earlier.
Of course.
The greatest little derivative pile of blueberry pudding pop fuckery that has ever glazed the surface of this shitty little galaxy.
oh, that's beautiful. Well, boys, we did it.
We did it. We made
Went
it
through
to
one
the
of the
end.
most extensive legions.
And now I get to next episode. I get to autism out.
Yeah, you get a death guard. But you know what?
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I see looming on the horizon that I'm genuinely terrified for?
Alpha Legion.
No, Legion 16.
Oh, yeah.
boy.
That's gonna have to be like a 2.5 parter at
That
least.
unironically, yeah. That
Yeah,
will
because we're
2
gonna
or
have
3
to,
parter.
because we're gonna have to cover Luna Wolves and then Sons of Horus and then probably Black Legion.
And then the quote unquote evolution into the Black Legion.
I'm gonna have a 30-minute segment just by myself talking about that entire Sons of Horus or Black Legion shit because they are not successors.
You're right. They're not successors.
Yes.
However,
But they are spiritual.
Yes.
Yes.
They are the remnants of what was
Yes. Yeah.
the prior two legions.
Yeah.
Well, the prior legion names, whatever.
It's complicated. See the episode in the future. There we go.
Okay.
Subscribe if you don't want to miss that one.
No.
yeah, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all
all
the good stuff.
Yeah. Skibbity Toilet in the comments. Join the Discord. When you come in Discord, read us all with a Skibbity Toilet. Or
Fuck it,
I
we
hate you.
skibbity balls.
No, to
Not yet.
I'm gonna go fill up my cum jar. Be right back.
One last thing. Even after editing,
No, God.
the World Eaters episode will not be the longest
No!
episode we've ever done.
It'll be this one.
Just so
It will
everybody,
be
just so
this one.
everybody can know, please tell me what's the current recording length we are at. This is before editing, of course, but
Before editing, we
God.
are at 2 hours, 53 minutes,
God
and 23
damn!
seconds.
He's got to go through 3
God
hours of
fucking
content.
damn. Oh.
Yeah.
We're getting better at this
Seems like
podcasting
We
thing.
are though.
Seems like I'm not the only one who tismed out on a fucking Legion.
There was a lot to cover in my defense. In my defense.
In his
In
defense,
my
there was a
there
lot
was
to
too.
cover. There was a lot
there
to
was
cover.
a lot to cover, and there was a lot of side tangents for Skibbity Toilet,
Skibbity Toilet, Big E, yeah.
Malkador.
Malgador rubbing Lehman's nose in the piss carpet while bopping him with a rolled up newspaper.
I'm sure we can find someone to fucking draw that.
Argonis.
Nope.
Come on.
Argonis, I need you to draw me a picture.
You got it. He's eventually going to hit us with like a
I feel like
defamation lawsuit just for.
I feel like Distracted Turtle likes making little animations like that. He may be.
Yeah.
We might be able to talk him into it.
Yeah.
Was he the one who did the Iron Warrior one? Right?
Yeah, he did the Monkey
Yeah.
Lava one.
Oh
He did
yeah.
the Monkey Lava, and then he also
I love that so much.
He also put the Waffle House one in the Discord. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
It was like
yes.
Nurgle with the Family Guy
Cheeked up
fault.
Abaddon. Yeah.
All right.
Archeama body Abaddon any day. Fight me. Anyways.
You know
Join
what,
us join us next time for the Death Guard episode. Until then, fuck it, we ball.
Fuck it, we ball.
Skip it.